Yeah? Good? You ready? Cool. Sure. Why not?
Hey,
Why not?
I just figured that out.
That you could stop a clip?
Oh, no, I already knew that. But, some clips work better if you stop them partway through. And that one appears to do that. I hope it annoys everyone.
Messi! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Why'd you scream right there? That was weird.
You just played
No, I know, but
that clip 11 times.
You think I scared people. Someone just fell out the bed.
Audio Red Bull, baby. We start your day off with a little gas, a little juice, a little electricity on the show. We want you to join us from 6 to 10 a.m. to start your day off full throttle, all afterburner. See, I'm trying to catch up with me right now. All afterburner, all gas, no brakes, YOLO, full send, yeet.
What was that, full send?
Full send.
Full send.
Yeah, full send.
I didn't hear the D in there.
Oh, full send.
Okay, because full send and full send sound like two different things.
My deepest apologies from this point forward through the remainder of the broadcast. I will fully enunciate all of my words.
Some words, it's probably better that you do that.
That's also probably fair. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Great to have you. The 4-hour sports talk extravaganza that is the Rob Brown Show starts now on a Wednesday. Turn it up. Lot to get to, lot to talk about on the radio broadcast today. Coming up, Mark Bonetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, will join us at 8:40 this a.m. I'm not going to jinx it because this has happened to us. It happens to every radio show host that you get real pumped up. You got real excited about a guest you got lined up. You think it's on the books, and then you get the phone call like the day before that says, oh, sorry, we had some stuff come up, and we're going to have to postpone, delay, or cancel. I'm not saying that is what is going to happen. I am saying yesterday I spent about 10 minutes on the phone with the agent and publicist of a longtime National Football League Hall of Fame linebacker that I am hoping will be on the show either tomorrow or Friday. Fingers crossed. I won't say the name because that is how the jinx happens. You say the name and he does not appear. And I don't want to not believe in this guy. So I will very simply tell you that I spent about 10 minutes on the phone yesterday with the publicist and the agent of a professional football Hall of Fame linebacker. And the only hint I shall give you is that he played the majority of his ball for the then San Diego Chargers. Don't say the name if you know it. Don't jinx it. Don't ruin it for us. All right?
It's not Joe Hendry.
It is
I know,
not. Well, he didn't play professional football for the San Diego Chargers.
Not everyone knows whether he did or didn't. But yeah.
I'm pretty sure most of us know Joe Hendry did not play years of professional football and go to the National Football League Hall of Fame as a member of the San Diego Chargers.
No, most of us don't know that.
I'm not saying I don't believe that he could if he wanted to, because, again, I do believe in Joe Hendry. But that's not who we're talking about here. I will let you know when we get that confirmed. As of right now, it is tentatively scheduled for either tomorrow or Friday with a confirmation coming later today. But fingers crossed, we'll see where that goes. We've got coming up on the show today a whole lot of NFL draft talk because it is picked up, as it should. We're 55 days away? 54 days away, something like that?
From the NFL draft. Season to talk draft.
Hashtag smoke screen season, bro. It's my favorite time of year because everyone in the NFL is a liar. And it's great. And I'm interested in everybody in the NFL being a liar this year as much, if not more, than other years.
I was thinking about that because you've said that forever, and I agree with you.
Because I'm right.
But why does that not apply to Aaron Rodgers? And all the people that, oh, no, he's washed up, he's done. Why does it not apply to him?
So it doesn't, except for Aaron Rodgers isn't draftable.
I'm just talking about the entire season period because Aaron Rodgers and other free agent quarterbacks out there can affect how another team would draft. And by saying, oh, I'm not interested in them, and then, suddenly the price of their pick, if they want to get rid of it, can go up and things like that.
I think that, and I can only speak for me, when I am giving analysis of an in-the-league player, I'm not approaching it from the standpoint of what does that player have in terms of impact on the draft itself. I'm having a conversation from the standpoint of if a team makes a move for this guy, whether it costs them draft capital or not, what do they add to the team? Now, the trading of draft capital certainly can come into play for a guy like that. But if you believe that a quarterback that is available for trade or just to pick up as a free agent, and again, Aaron Rodgers is a straight-up free agent. It's not a trade. You don't have to give up any draft capital for the guy. You just go sign him. If you are interested in adding Aaron Rodgers to your team, you're doing it on, what is it? Free agency period starts up March 12th, I believe. You're doing it, like you're having that talk now, right? Like you're engaged in contract negotiations now.
Why did they show LeBron?
That's not the picture to use, guys.
Yeah, why did they do that?
That's rude.
That's messed up.
All right, I'm going to come back to the Aaron Rodgers thing because now I want to talk about this instead. And it's my show. LeBron James last night did something very, very special. About 4 minutes into a game that I was watching against my New Orleans Pelicans.
He has 26 20-point games this year. LeBron, open three. Got it! 22 seasons, 40 years of age. LeBron James, 50,002 points. And he's not done. That's the good part about it all.
8 minutes, 34 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Luka Doncic drives off the right-hand side. He finds LeBron James. Like I said would happen a lot, wide ass open on the left wing outside the three-point line. Luka drops a dime into LeBron's hands. He fires up a three from about 3 feet behind the arc, drills it, and LeBron James becomes the first player in NBA history to record 50,000 points on a career. But it's okay because later on Zion had a dunk. So everything's fine for my birds.
All you naysayers out there, man, they're showing highlights right now. They look good.
Zion can still play, man, but like...
Oh, I wasn't noticing him. I was watching.
You should. He actually played pretty well last night. LeBron James, 34 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, but more importantly, crossed the 50,000-point mark, the only player in the history of the National Basketball Association to do that since he has turned 40 years of age. The Lakers have played 23 games. LeBron is averaging 26 points, 8 boards, 8 assists. Last night, Luka Doncic went 35-5. He is just the 4th player in Laker history to do that. One of the others is LeBron James. They both did it last night in the game. Just like Rob Brown told you, this Lakers team is now good. Not pretty good, not okay, not a threat. They are good. They are a good basketball team. But I didn't bring all that up to talk to you about how good the Lakers are, how good LeBron is, how good Luka is, how I was absolutely spot on, dead ass accurate about everything I said after the trade.
Go about the losing team, are you?
No.
Okay.
I'm about to talk about what we just saw on television. Exactly.
It's so messed up.
ESPN, which we keep on in the early portion of the morning because for the first few hours of the morning, they actually show Sports Center. Like, you know, when we were all cheering and woke up early to watch 30 minutes of Sports Center before we went to school.
We also explore every avenue of possible breaking news, so not just social media, but TV.
Sports Center.
That way we can get you what you need to know.
Listen, I don't want to bag on ESPN. I want to love ESPN. They have been an integral part of my entire life, but just give me Sports Center. Tell me what's happening. Anyway. We've got that on the TV. There's a TV that hangs right here halfway between Zoe and I that we can both put eyeballs on during the show. We keep it up there for...
I didn't.
It was a tap. It was a love tap.
Yeah, it's moving now.
that we can both watch during the show. It did move. It slid over a little bit.
Yeah,
that we can both watch during the show so we can keep an eye on. As Lonzo pointed out, breaking news, here's what's happening. Does anybody say something dumb that we want to address immediately? Or do they show something that we go, that's it, train wreck this segment, I got to talk about this. Like I am right this very second. They just put up at the beginning of a highlight package about the Lakers taking on and destroying my Pelicans last night, they put up a graphic of LeBron to celebrate the 50K points as what is deserved to be celebrated. 50K points. Only guy to ever do it before. The longevity of a man who has been in the league over 2 decades now should be celebrated. I do not care how you feel about him personally. The guy is one of, if not the greatest basketball players. If nothing else, the longevity of the career establishes that. But again, not what triggered me to talk about this. What did was the picture they chose to utilize as the graphic for Braun. You know, LeBron before the game, he goes to the scorer's table and he does the thing where he pours a bunch of baby powder in his hand and then he bends down and then he throws it in the air. It has become an iconic trademark signature moment for LeBron to the point that I have seen guys and gals of every age and every level emulating in lower level basketball games because, again, LeBron James. Again, fine. Good graphic. They showed him from the back with the hands outstretched in the Lakers jersey with James and the 23 across the back. All good. Alonzo, would you like to describe why it is that both of us went, oh no?
You know, male pattern baldness is hereditary. And, it's passed on from dad to son, from son to son, and I don't know why they need to do him like that. We all know that he's balding. But why do they, doctor the picture. I'm okay with it. Just doctor it a little bit.
The picture that they elected to use for this graphic showing LeBron arms outstretched from behind him to put the James 23 jersey was a fine choice, except for they highlighted Braun's bald spot in the back of his dome as if that's what the segment was about. Not 50,000 points. Man, listen. I'm not saying that if you are a man experiencing baldness, if you are a man going through that who is losing the hair, don't worry about it, all right? Don't worry about it. It's just hair. It ain't you. It doesn't define you. There's nothing wrong with you if you're going bald.
Hey, he tried to fix it, and everyone went at him when he tried to fix it.
He did.
Yeah, and then he's just like, okay, I can't win.
Yeah. I mean, for the
if
record,
he shaves it off, he may not look good bald. A lot of guys do. He may not. And maybe he did some CGI or something to see what, because he can afford it. Plus, he has his own production company. Okay, show me what I look like bald. No, I can't do that.
For the record, again, like if you're balding, don't worry about it. It ain't the end of the world. But that is. I think that is pretty descriptive, pretty illustrative of the career of LeBron. He can't win. It doesn't matter what he does. When he was in Cleveland by himself, he was doing it the wrong way. He goes to Miami doing it the wrong way. I would like to point out that here we are, and still yesterday, as LeBron was gearing up to go get 50K, entered that game with 49,999 points. We enter that game, and I see people on the internet making, I'm taking my talent to South Beach jokes. Do you remember when that happened? 10 years ago. 2015.
I thought it was longer than that.
10 years ago. The I'm taking my talent to South Beach happened. Since then, if you cut his career in half, LeBron James has won more championships than most of your favorite players. He's gone to more all-star games than most of your favorite players. He's put up more points than most of your favorite players. He's put up more assists than most of your favorite players. Just in the past 10 years, LeBron James has been arguably the greatest player of our generation. My man crosses the 50K mark last night. Kobe didn't do it. Michael didn't do it. Hakeem didn't do it. Big O didn't do it. Magic didn't do it. None of those cats did it. 50K points last night, and I get online. I stayed up late. I turned on the beginning of that game. That game tipped off at like 10 p.m. So I stayed up. I watched the speech from the President of the United States. I watched TGL, Tiger Woods and his Jupiter Golf Club losing again. They're like 1-4. It was bad. I stayed up watching college basketball. Auburn getting dismantled by Texas A&M literally an hour after I went on BetMGM tonight and said, oh, Auburn 4.5-point favorites. I'd lay 5.5, guaranteed, lock of the day, of the week, of the month, of the century, and then they turn around and get absolutely hammered by Texas A&M. I'm watching all of it. And then it gets to be about 10 o'clock, and I'm texting back and forth with the boys, and I'm like, I'm going to watch Lakers-Pels. I'm going to watch Lakers-Pels because I know we suck, but, there's a chance at history. LeBron James is getting his 50,000th point tonight. He only needs one. LeBron's not finishing scoreless. Of course he's getting it. So I'm going to tune in and watch it. And on top of that, he needs one, so I'm probably going to see it out of the gate, and I can go the hell to bed. So I tuned it in. I put it on the third TV screen. I was watching the game in the background because, again, I knew my Birds were going to lose by 40. I turn it on. LeBron knocks a three down with just over 8.5 left to play in the first quarter. And I decide, because I'm a masochist, I'm an idiot. I said, let me get on the social media and see what the people have to say. And there's two distinct groups of people on social media. There's half the people like me that are going, this guy is, if he's not the GOAT, he's no further down than 2. He's right there, right? And the longevity of LeBron James, as far as I'm concerned, the fact that at 40 years, it's not just that he's 40, it's that he's 40 and he's still one of the best 4 or 5 players in the NBA. 26, 8, and 8. Actually, sorry, almost 27, 8, and 8 is his average score line at 40 years of age. There's guys in the GOAT conversation that aren't doing that at 25. He's doing it at 40. And then there's another group of people online who are like, hey, take him with Dallas to South Beach. Oh, he had to go to the Lakers. Is LeBron James on a super team right now? No. No.
Well, I mean.
Well, maybe with Luka
as of a couple weeks ago, maybe.
But for the record, if you believe him, and I kind of do, LeBron didn't have anything to do with that. Nico Harrison called the Lakers and was like, hey, would you like to empty our bank account for no good reason on our behalf?
Not going well for that guy right now.
Yeah. Kyrie's done with a torn ACL. It led Street Clothes to decide, well, I'll go ahead and shut it down, too. No point in me coming back if Kyrie's not out there. So now the Mavericks aren't going to win another game this season. It ain't on LeBron that the Mavs just handed them Luka Doncic on a platter. Of course they're taking that. This man put up 50,000 points. I get online last night, and half of America is crapping on him. Why? 40 years old. He's outperforming all but 6 players in the NBA right now.
All right, Rob. I don't know if you knew this or not, but he's not Michael Jordan.
I didn't go to, I ended up not, I watched that game, tipped off at 10. I ended up not going to bed until midnight because I was mad at the internet. I started off the night oh, Trump's giving a speech. The internet's going to be a dumpster fire tonight. Turns out Donald Trump's the second most divisive person in America. The first is LeBron James, apparently for no reason. Oh, well. 50,000 points for the king. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot that we got to get to on the radio broadcast today. We're going to talk a lot of NFL draft coming up on the radio program. We got to talk some Major League Baseball as spring training rolls on now. Less than a month. Screw that. 2.5 weeks away from opening day. We got a lot to get to. Don't go anywhere. Rob Lonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show, is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. So I decided today to do something new with the cut. I decided to throw some sculpting clay in it.
Oh, no, you probably shouldn't do what you're doing right now. Oh.
And go with the messy bedhead look?
Oh, dude, I don't.
No, you got to work it around a little bit.
Okay, because it looked like it was going to stay.
It would. If I pull it back, I could totally have the hockey
when you
playoff.
had your head turned, it looked like it was going to stay.
Oh, I know, it would. I've got stuff in there that's for that. But if you shake it around a little bit, you kind of get this I'm trying but not too hard look,
Okay.
I think it might be my vibe now. I think I might be going with the I'm trying but not that hard.
Until someone tells you got to get a haircut.
Oh, she's been on it for 2 weeks. I worked out the deal with her of let me get it to here Like, let me get it to the shoulder, then evaluate it. Because I think her issue is when it's like in the bob length, right?
Yeah.
It's like in the chin length look that drives her crazy. I was like, let me get it, because this is where I cut it last time. Let me get it to the shoulder. Let me get it to like McIntyre level. Then you can tell me if you still hate it or not. But you've never seen it down here, because I have never had it.
When you get the bob level, if you do this little thing where you just do this top part, then you got a mullet, and she'd really be upset.
So what I did the last time when I had it like down to here was I got super into the European soccer player headband look, right? Where it like pulls it back on the top of the head, but all in the back stays down. And the first time I did that, she was like, I actually don't hate that. I was like, okay. Now, I didn't do it in here when I had the hair that long because I know you people on the stream would never let me hear the end of it.
Oh, it's not just them.
I'm going to this time. Okay? We're like,
Okay.
we're flirting with long enough to pull off the European headband look.
Dude, I don't know. That's the one thing I can't. I mean, that's akin to man bun to me. But,
I mean, hey, look, it's 2025. I'm doing it how I want to.
Okay, you do it. You do you. Just don't be going long doing it. The headband thing, I know. It just,
I didn't mean I'm doing it now. I don't have one of those with me.
yeah, I know. I just wanted you to know you only had a minute. That's all.
But I don't know. I think I'm rolling with this. Apparently, it's the entire Wire to Wire fan base versus Dewey on the text line right now.
Why? What did you?
Somebody said Dewey is one of those guys that is smart about meeting women. He searches Facebook marketplaces for used wedding dresses for sale and then filters by size. Somebody else says Dewey does his cousins.
What did he do?
Apparently his cousins.
No.
I don't know. I didn't get a chance to listen yesterday.
So Around the Horns being canceled is not even trending because no one cares.
Around the Horn for a very long time was probably my favorite debate show on TV because it was the only show that would cut off people when they said dumb things. Now we pay people more for saying dumb things. When Kellerman was in charge, is Kellerman still in charge of that show? I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched it because it's on in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I've seen like previews. He's still doing it. Yeah.
Who was the guy before?
No, not Kellerman. It's Tony Reale.
Reale's doing
Yeah.
it? Okay. When
Dude,
Kellerman was doing
Kellerman
it, that
did
show
it
was at its
like
peak.
the first year or something.
He was there for a while at the front. That was when it was at its peak because Kellerman was the only guy that like would be like, Woody, shut up. And it was great. I learned something this morning, both about myself and about South Carolina Gamecock women's basketball coach Dawn Staley, of course, a coaching legend, a college basketball legend, a WNBA legend. I learned something about myself, and it is this. I'm not a sneaker guy. I'm not a sneaker guy. Although I'm trending in that direction.
Wait. No. You definitely criticize anybody else who's not wearing what you think is.
No. You have taken my labeling dad shoes as criticism. It's not criticism. I own dad shoes.
It has negative connotations
It doesn't.
to it. So it absolutely is
No, it
criticism.
doesn't. You have taken it.
You use it as a dig at me.
No, I don't. I tell my friends they have dad shoes.
We've all heard it.
No, you just take everything personally. It's not
I do
criticism
not.
of
I don't
you.
know what you're talking about.
there it is.
I don't take things personal.
I am not a sneaker guy. I do, however, have like 3 or 4 pairs of nice sneakers.
All right, you need to clarify. So sneaker guy is a guy who buys them and puts them on the shelf.
Sneaker guy is a guy who spends inordinate amount of money on sneakers, and then like it's as much a collection as it is.
And then criticizes me for collecting anime statues.
I don't do that.
No, I'm talking sneaker guy.
No, sneaker guy is just guy who spends hundreds of dollars on sneakers and then wraps them as a collection to show off.
Yeah, those things were made to wear. I'm just saying. I mean,
Do your thing,
you know.
all right? Collect what you want to collect, wear what you want to wear, do what you want to wear. I'm good with it. It's never been for me. But I got married back in September, and for those of you who maybe are new to the show or didn't hear me talking about it, I bought my first ever pair of Nike Air Force Ones. I bought high top AF ones in the exact same color as my suit and then trimmed them in gold thread for a wedding day. And I bought them thinking I'm going to buy these, I'm going to wear them, and I'm going to break them out only when I wear that suit. And that is what has happened because I've put the wedding suit into my rotation for other events. So when I've gotten called out to go do speeches or presentations or MC events that require me to be dressed up, or the Triumph have called me and asked me to host some dinners and stuff like that, I will every now and then I will break out the wedding suit. It's like a sage green and the matching Air Force Ones so that I can go, I'm still cool, because I am. I bought them thinking, because they weren't cheap, to get them customized in the exact color with the gold thread, with the trim embroidered across the back. They weren't cheap, but it's the wedding. I'm wearing these very rarely. I'm willing to spend the money for that day. I did. Now I'm kind of now I kind of have an affliction, right? I have spent money on customized Vans for the hockey team, right? I got a pair of blue Vans with orange trim that say GVL, yeah, across the back of them. I've got a pair now of blue Jordan AF1 low tops for Triumph season because they match the blue in the home kit this year, right? So I've kind of gotten into it.
So your excuse is for work.
It's not an excuse. I straight up will acknowledge I have a mild affliction for shoes now. It's not full-on sneakerhead, but like a mild fascination with the shoe game. I blame Cody Decker, okay? So yesterday, I was scrolling Instagram. Yesterday, I was rolling down the social media. And on my Instagram page, I follow a bunch of podcasts, right? I follow a bunch of podcasts. And a lot of them are basketball podcasts. Yesterday, I learned something. And the something that I learned was that during her time in the W, Dawn Staley had a signature shoe with Nike. It was called the Air Zoom S5. It dropped back in 1999. Dawn Staley was not just one of the first women to have a signature shoe, but the signature shoe featured her silhouette on it, shooting a jumper for Team USA. It's pretty stellar. And the NBA and WNBA hoops podcasting world recently, I don't know if they discovered or it was reinvigorated or what, but recently discovered these shoes. I just popped it up on the stream, facebook.com/thefanupstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube or X, the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. I just popped it up on the screen. They haven't made these shoes, obviously, in about 20 plus years, 25 years now. They made them from like 99 to 2001 before they went out of rotation. I want one of these. No, not one of these. I want a pair of these. I don't want one shoe. I'd like a pair of the Dawn Staley Air Zoom S5s. That's a dope shoe. I did not know that Dawn had a signature shoe. In 1999, I will acknowledge I was 14 years old. And so while I was a big basketball fan, my dad, my mom, who I love both very dearly, I was very fortunate to have a spectacular two-parent home upbringing, and I know that I am very fortunate for that. They weren't buy you $100+ pair of footwear parents, okay? They weren't. They were, we're heading to the Walmart. We'll get you a pair of the Shaq signatures, right? We'll take you up to the Goodwill. And again, I appreciate that because now as a 40-year-old guy, I'm not a dude who goes to the mall and picks up $150 pair of sneakers that I'm going to wear once a month. And my bank account is very grateful for that because I'd rather have experiences than stuff. But I'm kind of trending in that direction. I did not know Dawn Staley had her own signature shoe. More importantly, I'm genuinely thrilled that the minute that the internet found out about these shoes, everybody's on board now. I saw like 6 different podcasts yesterday that had these sneaks revealed to them. And more importantly, it's not just about the shoe, because I do love the shoe. Again, I got it. If you're not watching on the stream, I got it pulled up right now. If you haven't seen these, you can come to the stream right now and take a look at them. It's not just about the shoe, which it's a good shoe. Like, it's a good looking shoe. And on top of that, this is what's really interesting. There was one of the pods, I don't remember who it was because I saw it yesterday at like noon, and that was a long time ago. These shoes, these sneaks, were probably, I can't say definitively, but probably the first like foam composite shoe. Right? Which is kind of a big thing in the basketball world now, are these foam composite shoes. The foam is lighter. The shoes don't weigh as much, but they still have structural integrity, which if you're like me and your ankles roll over off the side of a 1/4-inch curb, having structural integrity to your basketball shoe is kind of muy importante.
So they're not a shoe that Zion could bust out of.
Well, I don't know. Zion's a big SOB. That's one big son of a Zion. He's a big dude. So I don't know. But I do know that these were probably, maybe, but not definitively, but maybe the first foam composite shoe, meaning the Dawn Staley signature Nike Air Zoom S5 was ahead of the sneaker game by like years. The foam composites are what most of the NBA signatures are now. As the segment isn't about shoes. I mean, it's about this shoe, but it's not about shoes. Here's what I love about this. What I love about this is that the hoops world, including a number of pods that are hosted by current and former NBA players, are all clamoring to get this shoe made. We've got SIGs from Caitlin Clark. We've got SIGs from Angel Reese. We've got SIGs from Cam Brink. Now we're bringing back the SIGs from back in the day. Now we're bringing back Dawn Staley signatures. What that tells me is the advancement of basketball, not men's basketball, not NBA basketball, just the sport of basketball. Men's, women's, pros, college, new hoops, old hoops. It's in the mindset. We spent a week and a half going into the NBA All-Stars game talking about how bad the product was. And don't get me wrong, there's some stuff that needs a fixing for sure. But we spent a very long time talking about how bad the product was, and yet in the world of pop culture, which is, like it or not, where the public mindset, where conventionalism, consensus comes from, Dawn Staley is in the conversation. Dawn Staley, whose WNBA/Team USA days were in the last century, for the past day or two, has been at the forefront of the discussion. We're not just talking about women's basketball. We're talking about decades of women's basketball. We're not just talking about women's basketball. We're talking about basketball. I got LeBron putting down 50K. I got Luka Doncic being the talking point of sports for a week and a half. And now I got Dawn Staley showing up on my feed in bulk because she had signature shoes back in '99 that I didn't even know about until right now. This is fantastic. This is awesome. I love this for Dawn. I love this for women's hoops. I love this for basketball in general, that the pop culture conversation is now including a legend from back in the late 90s. That's good for hoops, man. Good for ball. Let's take a break. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. So, this is a pair of shoes that you could rock.
Yeah, I've had stuff like that. You said they were dad shoes. The only thing that makes it different is the strap.
The strap's great. The foam, dad shoes are not foam composite. It's a new age material.
Yeah, I've had those.
That's a good shoe. That's a real good shoe. He takes the dad shoes jokes very seriously. Give me 30 seconds, guys. Be right back. Thanks for hanging in there. Let's be honest. If those shoes weren't tied to Dawn, nobody would like them. I think we could say that about a lot of signature shoes, right? I think those are dope. I still got them up on the screen. I think they're cool. And I'm not even disagreeing, Wesley. I may just like him because I like Dawn, and that won me over. But I think that's a badass looking shoe. If Nike rolls out the Zoom S5 Dawn Staley signatures, the S5s, I'd go buy it. 100%, I'd buy a pair of those. Now, I'll tell you this. I wouldn't want them in that white. If I could find them in a color, if I could find them in black, if I could find them in purple, if I could find them in Gamecock Garnet, I'd prefer that. I don't like them. I don't like plain white sneaks. I don't own any plain white sneaks. I own plain black. I own plain blue. I'm not a plain white guy. And honestly, it's just because I make them dirty so fast. What did I say this time?
I'm not a plain white guy.
I am the plainest white guy. Look at me.
Why couldn't that have been? I guess I could pull it from the stream.
Mm-hmm. You can clip it out of the StreamYard video.
Look, Tiger looks drunk. Or just really tired. Really, it comes down to whatever you're into. I've never looked at a shoe and got really excited.
I very rarely do. Like I said, I'm not a sneakerhead.
Well, you say that.
I got excited
then
about
you talk about all the shoes you own. So
I got excited about the AF1s because they matched my suit. Like the shoes that I've spent money on that I really like. It's not just because I look at the shoe and go, I got to have that shoe.
How many pairs of shoes combined with boots?
Yep.
And dress shoes. How many pairs of shoes do you have altogether?
Oh, pairs of shoes entirely?
Yes.
Are we counting like slippers and flips?
Yes.
If we're including slippers and flip-flops in this conversation, I'm going to say 18, 19.
It's kind of a lot, dude.
I've got a pair of basketball shoes, a pair of golf shoes, a pair of house slippers, 2 pairs of flip-flops, brown and black. I've got the AF1s. I've got the Vans. I've got the AF1 lows. I've got black Chelsea boots and brown Chelsea boots. I've got black dress shoes, brown dress shoes, a pair of Sperry topsiders. That's 18. I've got a pair of motorcycle riding boots. That's 19. I've got... I'm getting close to the end. I'll say 20. I'll say conservative 20. The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Alonzo and you. I want to get back to something we opened the show with. Well, we opened the show with LeBron's hairline, or at least ESPN deciding that was the best photo they could come up with the guy. However,
I hope it's a trend. I hope they show John Cena like that next.
there was a picture of Cena standing on the rings or on the ring after Elimination Chamber. My dude needs to just go Dwayne. Just shave it bald, John. Just shave it. Just be done with it.
He's rocked a crew cut for a long time.
Yeah, or go back to the military style cut. Hide it a little bit.
It's not that much of a stretch to just go ahead and take it the rest of the way off.
I want to go back and talk about
Or
LeBron.
just keep the hat on.
Or just keep the hat on. I don't know if he's ever wrestled in a hat before. He always throws it. I don't know if he's not going to do that now. We'll see. I want to go back and talk about LeBron for a second. 50,000 points. Well, 50,002 as of the moment with 8:38 left in the first quarter that he knocked down a left wing three to be the first NBA player to cross the 50K points mark. The man is 40 years old. Has been for, 2.5 months now? The Lakers have played since he turned that age. The Lakers have played 23 basketball games. In those 23 games, LeBron James has been averaging a ridiculous number. 28 games, he has averaged 26.4 points on 54% shooting, 42.3% from three, 8.2 boards, and 8.1 assists. Now, put those numbers in the noggin for a second. 26.4 points, 8.2 boards, 8.1 assists. I want to give you another set of numbers for LeBron James, which was 26.8 points compared to this year's 26.4, 56.5% shooting compared to 54.1% shooting this year, 40.6% from three compared to 42.3% from three this year, 8 rebounds compared to 8.2 this year, and 7.2 assists compared to 8.1 assists this year. The second set of numbers that I just gave you was LeBron James' season of 2012-2013 when he played for the Miami Heat. Why did I single out that year, you might ask? Because LeBron James was the NBA's MVP that year. In a year in which he was named on a team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, the NBA MVP. He was averaging 0.4 not even a half a point more per game. He was shooting that year 2% better. He was shooting 2% worse from three. He was averaging 0.2 more rebounds and a full one fewer assist the year he won the MVP. Man's 40 years old. This is a spot where, and we've talked about this is a long-running trope of the show. The concept of appreciation of a player or a guy that maybe you don't line up with them in their personal viewpoints, their personal life, but still understand what they are on a court. I say this as I look up at the television and they're doing a breakdown on the injury of Kyrie Irving. ACL popped. He's done for the year. Kyrie Irving is kind of that guy for me. I think it's silly that he's walking around basketball arenas burning sage to clear the bad spirits out. I think it's goofy that he thinks that the earth is flat. I think the conspiracy theories that Kyrie Irving clings to his beliefs are absolutely bleeping ridiculous. I also appreciate that Kyrie Irving, this year until the ACL popped, was averaging 39.3 minutes per game, most in the NBA, was averaging over 28 points per game, which is fourth best in the NBA. Those are his numbers since Luka Doncic got traded to the Lakers. His numbers on the season are in line with those numbers. I appreciate the ability to watch Kyrie Irving play basketball, even if I believe his off-the-court beliefs and activities are dumb as hell. What I am saying here is, if you have watched LeBron James and you have gotten after him for his off-the-court activities, whether it's his politics or his views on entertainment or the fact that he has decided that he wants to be as good of a businessman and billionaire as he was an NBA player, or I should say still is an NBA player, you're missing out if you're a basketball fan. You're just missing out. If you're anti-LeBron for what he does on the floor, maybe you're the cat that looks and goes, oh, he whines, he flops, he dives. Maybe he does. But I would also say to you, in what is and has been for some time, and I don't really understand it, but I guess that's because I believe it, LeBron James is playing to the NBA. LeBron James is doing what LeBron James needs to do in order to be the best LeBron James he can be for the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James has figured out some things about the league. Like, for instance, the fact that historically the names of the games get themselves calls. And if you act it up, sometimes you get more of those calls. LeBron James has one job as an NBA player. That job is to go win basketball games and to go win NBA championships. That's his job. And I will be the first in line to say, I think LeBron takes that job very seriously. I think LeBron takes that job as seriously as anybody else in the league. Now, you can make the argument that LeBron doesn't have the Mamba mentality. He doesn't attack the game like Michael Jordan did. And that's all well and good. LeBron James does not need to be playing basketball at 40 years of age. LeBron James, if he's not already, is going to be the first athlete billionaire. The first guy who becomes a billionaire because of his athletic prowess. Now, obviously, a lot of that's going to come with his Hollywood career. He had the Space Jam sequel. He was in that movie Trainwreck with Amy Schumer. He's done all these different things.
And John Cena.
He's done all these different things. But he got the opportunity to do all those different things because of the fact that for a very long time, he was the best basketball player on planet Earth. I don't know if he's the best. He's not the best basketball player on planet Earth now. He's one of the best 10, though. Go find me the list of guys that are right now averaging 26, 8, and 8. It's not a long list. Luke is on it, by the way, but that's a different story. If you are a basketball fan at all, and you're not watching LeBron, you're costing yourself the opportunity to watch something special, and frankly, I feel bad for you. You're costing yourself the opportunity to, and I think that we use this phrase a little bit liberally in 2025 and have for a very long time. You are costing yourself the chance to watch history happen as it happens. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens in sports that we want to slap that historic label on. A lot of things that happen in sports where something that certainly stands out gets labeled as historic. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's real good, but is it historic is something to me that jumps off the page. Not is very special. Not is something that justifies a segment or two on the Rob Brown show. But something that you look at it and you go, we're going to be talking about this forever. What LeBron James is doing this season is one of those things. And I believed that 25 games, 30 games into the season when it was very clear that even with Anthony Davis missing time, not as much at the beginning of the year, but he was still missing some games. Despite the fact that Braun was going to do something that makes sense, but all of you hate in load management, and was going to sit out of a few back-to-backs, it was very obvious to me, 20 to 25 games into the season, that the season we are about to watch from LeBron James is going to be something very special. The guy is turning in not an all-star year. He's turning in an all-star starter year. He's turning in a year that, statistically speaking, is identical to a year 13 years ago that he was named the NBA's MVP. We are watching something historic. And last night, if you stayed up real late and you turned on the television around 10 p.m., and you tuned in to watch the Lakers and the Pelicans, my team stinks. It hurts my heart. But if you tuned in to watch that game, maybe you knew LeBron was on 49,999 points, and you wanted to watch the first time that an NBA player reached 50K. Or maybe you just wanted to see, now that the minutes limitation is lifted on Luka Doncic, and they were going up against a less than mid team again, I hate my basketball team. Maybe you just wanted to see what this Lakers squad was going to look like after Rob Brown spent a solid segment of the show yesterday telling you the Lakers are now Western Conference contenders. Not outside looking in. The call is coming from within the house. Whatever reason. If you tuned in last night, you didn't just watch a moment of history. It was a moment in history. 50K points. We're going to be talking about that forever. From this point forward, every single player that goes out there and has a season in which they average 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 points every season from this point forward, it is going to be brought up that in order to catch LeBron James and surpass a 50,000-point mark, this player will have to stay on this pace for 17, 18, 20, 22, 24 more years to catch LeBron James. That's what we got to watch last night, the beginning of that conversation. And I thought it was real cool. If you have decided that you are not going to watch anything this guy does, because he's not Michael, because he's not Kobe, because he flops, because he load manages, whatever. What I would tell you is you have elected not to watch a guy who has figured out the psychology of the game, who has figured out the way the game works, who has figured out the niche that he fills within the game, has figured out the benefits that he receives for being him in this game, and is utilizing all of those different scenarios to put himself at the top, not just of the all-time scoring list, but to put himself as the only member of the 50,000-point club. It's not exclusive. He is the only one in it. It is more than that.
Well, that still makes it exclusive, right?
I mean, exclusive to me means, yeah, some people get in, some people don't. He's the only one.
So
it's not a club. Club requires multiple people.
Is anybody even close?
No.
Is there a possibility of anyone ever hitting this again?
No. For Luka to get there, averaging 28 points a game, Luka will have to play until like 2043, the year 2043, to get close. And by the way, not only would he have to play till like the year 2043, but he would have to play till the year 2043 at the level that he's playing at 25 in 2025. I'll put it this way, Zoe. If I said to you right now, put $1,000 down today, and if Luka maintains that and gets to 45,000 points, I will turn that $1,000 that you put down into $1 million in 2045. You'd be silly to take that bet. You'd be silly to take that bet. If I bet you 1,000 to turn into $1 million, that Luka gets to 45,000. And y'all know how I feel about Luka Doncic. I love the guy. I love his game. I love his approach to it. I watched him last night. There was an energy and electricity that he brought to the Lakers that they have not had this year, even with Braun going off. And you could feel it if you're a basketball guy. Watching that play out the way that played out, watching him attack, even with that, I would not bet Luka Doncic to come anywhere close to LeBron James. That's what we're watching right now.
By the way, what's combined points mean? Is that
regular season and playoffs.
Okay. All right.
Because he's at 41.7 in the regular season and 8,100 or 8,200 in the playoffs. So 50K career points includes regular season and postseason games. And again, benefit of the doubt, because in order to score 8,200 plus playoff points, you got to play in, I'm not good at math, a lot of playoff games.
Yeah, I think that checks out.
A lot. Like 20 years worth of making runs through the playoffs, not showing up and getting 3 or 5 games in a series. 20 plus years of repeatedly going deep into, winning through, picking up chips in order to get to 8,200 playoff points. He gets credit for that too. A lot of great players couldn't put together the postseason runs that LeBron's put together. And don't hit me with, well, super teams. He dragged Big Z to an NBA Finals.
Big Z.
With all due respect to Big Z. He ain't Shaq, right? Like Kobe had. Don't give me this he's been on super teams thing. I mean, he has. But so's just about every other superstar of the past 30 years in the NBA. I don't care. I mean, I do care. I don't like it, but whatever.
I need a super team defined. Is it okay if it's organic?
I would say 3 All-Stars on the team. If it's organic and built, that's credit to the organization, to the franchise, right?
But isn't it still a super team, though?
I mean, to me, we talked about this earlier, negative connotations. The negative connotation of a super team is when multiple teams or multiple superstars around the league conspire to make sure they all end up in the same place. If a team, or if the Milwaukee Bucks organically grow a super team around Giannis Antetokounmpo, they get the credit for that. I wish my team would figure it freaking out.
Nice restraint there.
You don't even know. I heard a clip earlier from former NBA player Tony Allen, who spent a couple of years down in New Orleans. We're going to play it for you in the Audio Blitz coming up at 8 o'clock, the best sound that we've heard since the last time we did the Audio Blitz yesterday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And he calls the Pelicans the worst franchise in the association. And the thing is, I listened to it, I heard it, I lived through the Tony Allen years, and I'm like, yeah, he's right. He's right. What do you know what it does to a man's pride, to a man's emotion, to a man's heart when it comes to the recognition, when it comes to the revelation, when it comes to some Asian?
Nice correction.
About the fact that he is a supporter and fan of the worst team in an organization, the worst team in an association, the worst team in a league, and there's nothing that's going to change about it. I want to throw myself. Everything hurts and I'm dying. Make me feel better with a sports flash.
By the way, he said Asian, A-T-I-O-N, not what you may think he said. The Gamecock men's basketball team, that's probably not making you feel better, fell to the Georgia Bulldogs last night. 73-64, South Carolina brought the game to single digits inside of 2 minutes, but Georgia out-rebounded them down the stretch to seal the win. Colin Murray Boyles scored 24 and Nick Pringle recorded 11, but no other Gamecock reached double digits. Number 1 team in America, the Auburn Tigers were dominated last night by Texas A&M Aggies, 83-72. The Tigers' worst performance of the season. The win was A&M's first ever over an AP number 1 ranked team and ends Auburn's 6-game winning streak. Tune in Saturday at 8 p.m. as the Furman Paladins take on the Sanford Bulldogs in the first round of the SoCon basketball tournament. Furman versus Sanford. Right here on your home for Furman Paladins. Paladins basketball. The Fan upstate. That's what I get for cracking on him. Paladin. Oh, that doesn't sound good.
But it's the first year off an Achilles is one of the hardest things to do. You've seen it happen with Kirk. Kirk had a down year. It happened with Aaron. I mean, he struggled, like you said, early on, but he got better as the season went. I think with all the doubt and all the negativity around Aaron Rodgers, oh, he needs to retire, things like that. You know, he's getting cut by the Jets. I think he's going to come back and have a – I mean, I know he's 42 or 41.
Are you going to say MVP?
No, I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town.
Oh.
Let's dance.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show starts now. I was going to say item number 2 because we're gearing up for the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know here in just mere moments from right now. And I stayed up too late being mad at strangers on the internet. I'm an emotionally charged person. What do you want? I went to bed at I watched the start of the Lakers-Pellies game. I watched Braun get 50K. I went and laid down at 11:10, 11:15. I didn't fall asleep till 12:30 this morning. I wake up at 3:30. It wasn't great.
Yeah, well, I could.
Wasn't ideal.
A lot of corrections this morning, so I kind of knew that. Just
I swore to myself.
This sentence does not make sense. Does he read this, say it out loud? I don't know.
I swore to myself that at the 40th last Wednesday, I swore to myself, I'm like, Rob Brown, you're going to get better at sleeping like a normal person, all right? Yeah, you know your job requires you to get up at bleep you o'clock in the morning. This isn't a surprise. It's not a shock. You've been in the morning show for how long now, Zoe? About a year?
Dude, I don't know.
Maybe longer?
Maybe.
You've been in this slot for a long time. You know the schedule. You know how it works. You know what it's going to be. So you're going to be a better human. You're going to take care of yourself, which I have. I've been eating better for the past week. All right. I have dropped since last Wednesday 7 pounds. I'm taking care of myself. And I said, you're gonna be a better sleeper. You're gonna get your 8 hours. And it is scientifically proven that you don't need all 8 in one stretch. You can do 2 4-hour shifts. You can do 6 hours and then a 2-hour nap during the day. As long as you get 8, and you get it in no more than 3 or 4 shifts, fine. And I said, you're going to get your 8. Maybe you only sleep 6 hours at night, but then you come home, you take a 2-hour siesta in the daytime before the wife get home. There's your 8 hours. You can stay up a couple hours later, watch some sports, whatever. Going to be a better sleeper. Part of that means Rob Brown, because I refer to myself in the third person.
There is no one that doubts that.
Part of that, Rob Brown, is going to mean no more doom scrolling at 11 o'clock at night. You're not going to get on the internet at 11 o'clock at night. You're not going to get on social media at 11 o'clock at night. But I also came to the realization that I get up at 3:30. I leave my house between 10 to 4 and 4. I'm in this building between 4:10 and 4:20. I'm banging out the news. I'm grabbing the stories. I'm organizing the prep I did last night. I'm adding more prep on top of it. All right. So I said, no more doom scrolling. You can do all that in the AM. I listen to a podcast or two on the way to work in the morning. Maybe I listen to the overnight show on the Infinity Sports Network with the wonderful hosts that they run through there.
Yeah, wonderful.
Whatever. You can catch up in the morning. And I will tell you that while I have eaten dramatically better since last Wednesday, I will tell you that while I will say, sincerely been able to better focus on my work. I have started back up. Going to therapy, speaking to a counselor, making sure my bleeps together, because this may shock you. Sometimes it's not. I have gotten back into making sure I'm taking the proper prescribed medication, which has been a dramatic increase in help.
How much of your counseling requires talking about me?
Fifth.
Okay, all right. I'm in there.
I mean, amendment, not 1/5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, it's all been very helpful. Last week, I felt better than I've ever felt before. But I can't stop getting mad at strangers on the internet. It's an addiction, okay? I get on social media. I'm on last night. Braun spots 50K. I'm like, let me get on and see what everybody's talking about. It's going to be a LeBron celebration, right? We're watching one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Certainly the basketball player with the most longevity of all time. The man is 40 years old, routinely putting up 30 and 35 spots. No. Just a bunch of people on the internet screaming about the audacity this guy has to be real good at his job. The audacity. So I stayed up too late. I stayed up being mad at strangers on the internet. I was real mad. Okay. It is 7:05 in the morning. You have less than 55 minutes until you've got to get your bootay into that office chair. Plop down in front of that computer. Responding to those emails you don't want to respond to. Talking about whatever it is you do for a living. And then 11 and a half minutes later, ignoring all of those things to walk down the hall and go talk sports with your coworkers. And if you're going to talk sports with your coworkers, you got to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you need to know what's going on in the world of sports, you need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
I'm not going to play with it anymore.
Yeah, stop it.
before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
Not needed or deserved, if I may say so myself.
Nailed it, though.
Didn't say that. Just said not needed or deserved. It's the water cooler cheat sheet. The top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports this morning. When you do, this is what you're going to be talking about. Let's start with item number 1. College basketball was a wagon last night. A lot of stories coming out of the landscape of NCAA MBB. The Auburn Tigers, the number 1 team in the country, consensus coming into the week, were on the road last night down at Texas A&M, taking on the the Aggies of Texas A&M. The weird-ass yell leaders were there and everything. The Auburn Tigers were looking to carry the hot streak into this Saturday's matchup against the University of Alabama, into the SEC tournament where they were projected to be the number 1 seed, into the NCAA March Madness tournament where they were projected to be the number 1 overall seed. And they may very well still be, though it may not be quite as clear-cut as maybe it was 12 hours ago, because they got blasted by the Texas A&M Aggies last night, 83-72, in a game in which Auburn never held a lead. The Aggies got out to a 7-0 run early. It was 40-34 at the half. The Aggies outscored the Tigers 43-38 in the second half. Janai Broome, my favorite player in college basketball, back-to-back letdown nights. 8 points on 4 of 9 from the floor, 0 of 1 from the arc, 7 boards and a pair of assists. Janai Broome was just steamrolling up the player of the year betting odds. And he's going to fall like a rock today, because this is now back-to-back single-digit point games, back-to-back games where Janai Broome couldn't get it going. And I do want to point out, Janai Broome has been playing this entire season on a busted wheel. He has not been anywhere close to 100%, but this still it's not good enough. 19 from Tahad Pettiford, 15 from Chad Baker-Mazara for the Auburn Tigers. The Aggies on senior night got 16 out of Wade Taylor, the fourth, 11 from Anderson Garcia, 10 from Manny Obaseki, and were just more efficient. There are some interesting numbers here. Auburn shot 50% from the floor, 25 of 50. They shot 41% from deep, 9 of 22. The Aggies, just 43% from the floor, but they lifted up 15 more efforts. They were 9 of 25 from the three-point line for 36%. They had a 72% free throw clip compared to Auburn's 87% free throw clip. But they shot 10 more free throws in this game. They out-rebounded Auburn 41-25. You want the number of the game? Texas A&M had 24 offensive rebounds. Auburn had 9. I have been carrying the Auburn banner all year long, and all of the sudden, I'm thinking, maybe I got tricked. Maybe Bruce Pearl's squad ain't quite as good. I don't want to overreact to just the third loss on the season for Auburn. But between here and the end of the year, every team is Texas A&M for the Auburn Tigers. Everybody. They got Alabama this weekend. That's a top 10 team. In the SEC tournament, there are going to be 9 ranked teams in that tournament. 9. That's ridiculous. Then they start the March Madness tournament. And while they will probably, as a 1 seed, get a couple of pillows out of the gate, do you think there's not going to be a couple of teams out there? Maybe a Furman Paladins or an Appalachian State out of the Sun Belt Fun Belt Conference? Maybe not a Purdue Fort Wayne that would love to be the next UMBC? that would love to be the next 16 to knock off a 1. Auburn has a crosshair right on the forehead today and every game for the rest of whatever the season turns out to be. And if that's the performance they're going to turn in when they do, I might have overestimated this team. BYU knocks off number 10, Iowa State, 88-85. Last night, Purdue dropped 100 on Rutgers. They scored 50 in the first, 50 in the second to move to 21-9, ranked number 18. That's going to go up this week. Kentucky put up 50 in the first half as well. Arizona scored 113 points last night. 55 in the first half, 58 in the second. Lonzo, you want more scoring in college basketball? You better be watching the Arizona Wildcats. $113. Arizona State scored 100 last night and lost the game. That's ridiculous.
Where's the defense, Rob?
Oh, just can't. Item number 2. 8 minutes, 34 seconds left to play in the first quarter of the game last night between the LA Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans. Luka Doncic with the ball on the right-hand side, dribbles right, cuts right, draws the defense, including Zion Williamson, who was guarding LeBron James at the time, over towards him in the paint. Looked like he was attacking the rim. Instead, he takes a little one-step hop, kicks the ball out to the left-hand side to a wide-open LeBron James, who from 3 feet behind the arc drills a three-pointer. Just another three-pointer from a guy who's shooting about 37% from range this year, but it is not the three-pointer that is the news. It is the fact that after that three-pointer tickled the twine and popped out of the bottom of the bucket, LeBron James had become the first player in NBA history to reach 50,000 career points last night. LeBron finished with 34, 8, and 6 in a 136-115 win over the Birds. The Lakers have now won 17 of their last 20. They are now 39-21 and second place in the West. LeBron James, who is already the league's all-time leading scorer in the regular season, all-time leading scorer in the postseason, is now the only member of the 50,000-point club. Since turning 40, the Lakers have played 28 games. LeBron has played 28 games. At 40 years of age, the man is averaging 26.4 points, 8.2 boards, and 8.1 assists. Every one of those numbers is within a half a percentage point up or down of LeBron James' 2013 season, a season in which he won the NBA MVP award. If you're not watching the guy, you're flat out, straight up missing out. This isn't you're missing out on an all-time season. This is you're missing out on a season that when Zoe and I are old and decrepit and drooling in our chairs and unable to eat anything other than tapioca pudding, we're still going to be going, remember when LeBron got to 50,000 points? That was awesome. Our podcast is going to be great.
Why do you sound like Dickie V, though? Is that what you're going to do?
You got to be kidding me. Well, there's like my old man voice, and then there's Dickie V, baby.
It's not, it's just a little.
LeBron James.
Just a little excitement is the only difference.
The Dookies.
I'm using my old man voice right now.
Isn't every voice your old man voice?
That was the point.
Oh, okay. Item number 3. I'm just going to give you what the headline is here because this is going to be what we talk about in the next segment and perhaps, perchance, just maybe, for the rest of the hour, we will find out. We told you yesterday that there were going to be 3 phone calls taking place across America. One of them was going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, when the board of directors for the Atlantic Coast Conference got together on a call. One of them was going to take place in Tallahassee, Florida, where the board of directors for the Florida State University Athletic Department got on the horn. And one of them was going to take place right on down the road in Clemson, South Carolina, where the board of directors for the Tigers Athletic Department was going to get on the horn. Those 3 phone calls were all going to be related and connected to each other. The ACC was going to discuss and potentially approve terms of a settlement with the 2 schools that they would pass on to the schools. Those 2 schools would then receive those settlement terms, and then they would decide to agree with them or not to agree with them. In order for the settlement agreement to pass, both schools had to accept the terms as proposed for the Atlantic Coast Conference settlement with them. And they did. A settlement struck between Florida State University, between Clemson, and the Atlantic Coast Conference. That's the headline. The details are in the next segment, when I will tell you what those settlement terms are, what they mean for these two schools, what they mean for the conference, and what they mean for the future of football and other sports within it. That is coming up next. That's called a tease. Stick around. I'll give you those deets, bro. When we come back, Rob Brown, Lonzo, and you, the four most electrifying hours of sports talk entertainment on your radio. It's the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Okay, this is going to infuriate me.
Yeah, because you've already messed it up.
I haven't done anything.
Uh-huh.
I can't
You
mess up.
constantly moving it is loosening.
Okay,
it.
moving a thing that is quite literally designed to be moved should not mess it up.
No, here's the thing.
I need a screwdriver.
Here's the thing. Move to the mic, not move the mic. Move
But
around, leave the mic stationary. Anything. It's called. It's akin to erosion. If you keep moving it, it's
If
gonna.
the thing is made to be moved, I expect it to move.
Okay. All right.
Including me.
We'll be back. Not because of the dude down there who just needs attention apparently, but because I'm going to the restroom.
ongoing litigation between Florida State University, Clemson, and the ACC is over after the three parties reached a settlement agreement yesterday. I like this. I like this. We got a random shower-upper in the stream.
We're going to acknowledge. I'm curious, who's the one on meth? I mean, is that me or you?
Oh, that's you. 100% you.
Yeah, but I'm wearing a T-shirt.
That's true.
I am wearing a T-shirt.
We got a guy named Josh that just showed up in the stream and said, WTF, you got one dude high on meth. And you know what? I might be meth guy because I'm bouncing around a little bit. You know?
Could be. Again,
yeah. And
at
another
first,
who
I
never
thought it was
left his
reversed.
mom's basement laughing emoji.
I thought it was revert. And by the way, meth people don't have teeth, and we both have teeth. So
that's also true.
Yeah.
ACC, FSU, and Clemson ended their ongoing litigation yesterday. The three entities agreed to a settlement that will stop the four lawsuits that are floating between. Florida State had a lawsuit filed in Florida and in North Carolina. Clemson had a lawsuit filed in Pickens County and in North Carolina as well. Both of them filed a suit to cover bases because, as we have mentioned, both of them filed their initial suits in their home state. The ACC went and made the argument that those court cases should be heard in North Carolina, where the defendant is located. Effectively, all of them arguing for home field advantage in the court system. Florida State and Clemson responded to that by going ahead and filing another suit in North Carolina just to cover all of their proverbial bases. Yesterday, the Atlantic Coast Conference Board of Directors got on the phone line with each other early in the AM to decide what their final terms of settlement were going to be to the two schools. They did so. They sent them over. Florida State and Clemson then got together on the phone lines, not together as in the two schools, but their boards of directors, their athletic departments got together aside from each other. Although, yes, they were clearly talking in the background because the settlement had to be agreed upon by both schools in order for the settlement to go forward. So, yeah, I mean, I guess technically they both could have had their own discussion about whether it's good for them or not. But also, you might as well get on the horn because you don't want one school giving away a bunch of its leverage by accepting the terms, the other disagrees, then those court cases go forward, and the ACC gets to go in front of a judge and make the argument that, wait a minute, we offered a settlement. Clemson said they were going to agree to it just because Florida State did, and we should legislate that Clemson has to accept these terms, or whatever the case might be. All that out the window, however, as the two schools did agree in principle to the settlement with the ACC. Here is what we know. After the ACC board approved the move, the boards of the two schools approved the settlement terms. Clemson Athletic Director Graham Neff told his board the settlement is, quote, consistent with the objectives we set out with initially, end quote. Neff went on to say, quote, the ACC is an excellent fit for Clemson. The academic prestige and reputation we so emphasize here at Clemson is a natural fit with other members of the ACC. The historic football success the league has had and that Clemson has had in the ACC and access to the college football playoff currently, this is a great home for Clemson. The result of the settlement is thus: the grant of rights will remain in place until 2036. However, the exit fee structure and results are dramatically different now. Beginning next year, the exit fee will be a flat $165 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money, for sure. But before the settlement, the exit fees total, after all the fees and all the taxes and all the other factors, variables went into it, was expected to be, though there was never an official tally or total, over $200 million. Oh, and by the way, over $200 million and via contracts that the school signed, those two schools would forfeit their broadcast rights, meaning that, sure, you can leave the conference. You can go, be with the Big Ten, be with the SEC, go land wherever you land. We still get to show your games. You still belong to us. You can go be with the hottie down the street, but we still own the rights to your television revenue, which means that the SEC and the Big Ten obviously would not invite Clemson or Florida State. Why the hell would they? Now, beginning next year, the exit fee will be $165 million. If the exit fee is paid by the facility, by the institution will retain their media rights moving forward. $165 million next year, and the fee then declines by $18 million per year after that until 2030-31, where it will level at $75 million. So, you went out next year, $165 million, you keep your TV rights. A year after that, $18 million less, you keep your rights. A year after that, $18 million less than that, you keep your rights. A year after that, $18 million less, you keep your rights, down to 2030-31, in which case the fee will park at $75 million between there and the end of the current GOR in 2036. If you decide to leave at any point, you pay whatever that year's revenue is or that year's exit fee is. You get to leave with your media rights intact. I assume that that's about the ballpark figure that Clemson and Florida State came into this lawsuit with, that they wanted it around that mark. That is a justified reason to hang in the league for a minute, to stick around for a minute, and then start to negotiate. You can negotiate with the Big Ten and the SEC if you decide to leave. If you decide you want out, then in 2028, when that's around $90+ million, you can go to the Big Ten and the SEC and go, hey, look, we'd love to jump over. We'd love to be there. But we can't put $90 million down as an exit fee. So, what do you say, potential new dance partner? Why don't you fork over some dollar bills, y'all? Why don't you cover our exit fee? In return, we will do X, Y, and Z. Remember, SMU did that in order to secure their invitation to the Atlantic Coast Conference. They said, tell you what, you give us an invite to a Power 4 conference, and we will sacrifice our media revenue for, what was it, 2 years, 3 years, I think SMU said? They're not getting paid for a couple of years. That was the sacrifice that they made to gain the invite. Theoretically speaking, Florida State and Clemson could, provided they have the booster backing to do this, provided they've got people willing to put the money into the pot to cover it, could now go to the Big Ten, go to the ACC. And in whichever year they decide to move, whatever the price tag is to exit the ACC, could say to the Big Ten or the SEC, tell you what, you cover the exit fee outright. You pay that off. And we will take 0% of our media revenue from being a conference member, 10, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50%. So if we were going to get $160 million next year, actually I think it's more like 60. I think $65 million was the payout this year from the SEC. I think it was like 65 for the SEC and like 62 for the Big Ten. Instead of taking a $65 million payout, we'll take $30 million. You keep 35, put it on our tab. Then we'll do that again for 3 years. That'll cover the 90 mil. Or they wait till 2030, 2031, assuming all of this is still in conversation. They wait till that exit fee's down to 75. They don't take, say, half of their conference distribution, put it towards the tab. Now maybe you play for half the SEC revenue for 2 seasons, maybe 3. Bango, you're free and clear to stay in that conference and make the total dollar bill value.
So this is the end of this. We won't hear about this anymore.
Depends on what you mean by the end of it. The end of it for now, absolutely. I don't think anybody's coming off $165 million for Clemson or Florida State. I don't think the 2 schools are coming off of that, and I don't think the Big Ten or the SEC are going to cover $165 million. 3 years from now, 2027, 2028, when that number is more like $90 million, then I think, depending on what happens between here and there, because this is not just something that is going to be impacted by Florida State, by Clemson, by the ACC. It is also impacted by the Big Ten and the SEC. Not their direct involvement in the situation, but everything else that they have going on in their own worlds of conference expansion, of media rights deals, etc. If in 3 years, ESPN re-ups with the Southeastern Conference to be their official media rights partner, and they pay that conference $1 billion, maybe $90 million, ain't that much money anymore. Maybe they go, we believe that Clemson or Florida State, over 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years will add more value than we have to pay in the exit fee. Yeah, you're going to hear about it again. And the reason you're going to hear about it again is because it does not matter what the ACC does. It does not matter what the Big 12 does. It does not matter what this settlement says. It does not matter what anybody doing anything in those conferences does. None of that matters. What matters is, what are the payouts from the SEC and the Big Ten to the schools? And what are the payouts from the media rights holders, in this case Fox and ESPN, to those conferences? As long as those numbers keep going up, as long as Fox and ESPN, every time they renegotiate with these conferences to be the official media rights holders, give them more money, there's nothing the ACC or the Big 12 can do to combine to compete, including to combine. They could tomorrow announce a landmark resolution to combine those two conferences into one super mega ultra conference like the Big Ten, like the SEC. It does not have the brand power. They have been left too far behind for too long. The Big Ten and the SEC are like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They've got so much money, there is no way to separate it from them. I was watching, I dabble in politics, not on the show, away from it. But the other day I was watching a bunch of people on Twitter and they're like, oh, we all need to boycott Tesla. It's like, guys, you don't understand how much billions are. You could the entire country of the United States of America could never give Elon Musk another dollar, and he is gonna still be the richest man forever. Because what makes money? Money. Money makes money. He's got plenty. You can boycott Amazon all you want. You're not going broke if you're Jeff Bezos, right? That's the SEC and the Big Ten. ESPN, Fox, they are going to continue growing the amount of money that they give to those two conferences forever and ever and ever. What the ACC and the Big 12 do is irrelevant. If the SEC and the Big 10 want Clemson and Florida State, they're going to get them. And this media rights agreement settlement between the schools and the ACC are designed for that to happen, but to buy the ACC at least a handful of years to work to figure out how they will exist when that does happen. That's what the settlement was for. Let's talk more about that when we come back. Rob Lonzo and you, The Rob Brown Show, The Fan Upstate. I'm a big believer in solidarity. Yesterday I was scrolling the gram late at night, and I came across the pod where Kylie Kelsey was talking with Chelsea Handler, the comedian, and in her last stand-up special, Chelsea Handler did this big speech about how guys shouldn't wear flip-flops. And then Kylie was talking about how Jason is a big flip-flop guy. Wears flip-flops all the time. Chelsea was like, how do you handle your adult male husband wearing flip-flops as real shoes? And Kylie said, honestly, I've just gotten used to it. Like, I'm not going to change him. I've just had to accept it. And then they went off for like 10 minutes about how grown men shouldn't wear flip-flops. So I got up this morning and I put on my flip-flops out of solidarity with my fellow bearded fat American Jason Kelsey. Well, less fat, but still fat American Jason Kelsey. And I'm real glad I did, but at the same time, they are not meant to stand up for 4 hours. Today might be the day that I end up breaking before the end of the show. I hope not, but we'll see. Yes. Yes. I'm gonna do my best. But as the old saying goes, the dogs are barking.
You've lasted longer than we thought you would. So, I mean, you know.
Y'all thought it was going to last 30 minutes.
Right.
It's been a week and a half.
So what you're saying is your pride has ran out.
No, my pride is
your
there.
poor choices, you're gonna blame it on your poor choices and have a seat because of it.
I'm still very prideful in my ability to do this. My dedication to the mission. I'm very proud of myself. I also give a lot of credit for the reason I've dropped 7 pounds to standing up during the show. I believe that is a main, if not the main part of the reason that has happened. My feet hurt.
By the way, I just posted, I've only known one guy who lived in his mom's basement. That was the meanest guy. I mean, that dude would tear your head off if you said the wrong thing to the guy. Love the guy too, but and that's it. Just that guy. Even so, when his mom moved out and left him the house.
You stayed in the basement?
Yeah, he rented the top half because I rented the top half from him and stayed in the basement.
I grew up in Florida. We don't have basements there. So I've been into houses where, like, you walk in the front door and you're on the second story.
Yeah.
But it's a regular house.
So it's kind of sunken. Yeah, it's split level.
I've never been in. That's not true. The only basement I've ever been in, Joey B has a basement, like a legitimate sub room. It's in the ground basement. That, I think, is the only, like, genuine basement I've ever been.
Does he use it for basement things, or is it a nerd cave?
Just
Or
a nerd cave.
Sports cave, whatever.
Golf simulator down there. It's where he's got a big.
There you go.
We watch the wrestling on.
And by the way, that's what
It's
people.
awesome.
That's what dudes do in their basement
I've
now.
told the wife for many, many years that, like, if you want full control and autonomy over every aesthetic decoration that goes in the house, help me get to a house where we have a basement. I will contain my entire life in a basement and be thrilled about it. Help me get a basement. You can have every other room in the house. I don't care. Just help me get a basement.
What if you threw in one of those chairlift things that you sit down and it takes you up the stairs?
I ain't there yet. Talking about the settlement struck yesterday between Florida State University, Clemson, and the Atlantic Coast Conference. I've given you one of the two major terms. That major term is that the exit fee structure to leave the conference has been changed. It was, up until yesterday when these settlement terms were agreed to, it was that there was a host of variables that would go into determining what your exit fee from the conference was. And while you could exit, if you paid the exit fees, the ACC would still maintain possession of your media rights, which obviously makes leaving the conference entirely pointless.
What is Hotel California? Just coming on. You can check out anytime you like.
But you can never leave.
Yeah.
Doesn't
it sound like that a little bit?
Okay. I shouldn't have a guitar solo memorized. I do. Love the Eagles. That's what, but that is true. That's what it
I'm
felt
sorry
like.
I didn't join in because that's supposed to be twin lead.
It's okay. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
My bad.
Walsh and Fry, baby, forever. So, that is what it felt like. There's no point in paying an exit fee and leaving the conference if the conference maintains their right to show your games. That is pointless. Under the new deal, $165 million exit fee for this year, for next year, and then it will drop $18 million per year down to a flat $75 million exit fee in 2030-31, and any team that pays the exit fee can leave with their media rights intact at that point. Regardless of what they pay and when they leave, you will take your media rights with you, meaning that now you're attractive to other potential partner conferences. That is one half of the settlement. The other half of the, by the way, real quick, sorry, I do have to add one more little feature into that. The reason that 2030-31 date was the agreed upon date is actually in the benefit of Clemson and Florida State, because the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the college football playoff, all of their current grant of rights agreements come due in 2030-31. So when the exit fee from the ACC hits its lowest, that is the same time that the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the college football playoff media rights deals all come up for renewal as well. Not the SECs, but the 10 and the 12 and the CFP. The CFP obviously matters because participation in and success in the college football playoff puts money towards the conferences and the schools that participate. Meaning, if the CFP, when they sign their new TV contract in 2030, sees the media rights price go up to $1 gazillion, then the conferences who participate in the CFP will get more money. The teams that participate in the CFP will get more money. That means that the conferences like the Big Ten, like the Big 12, that have thus far had success in the college football playoff will have more money that they can then put towards a reduced exit fee for Florida State and Clemson should they elect to try to pick up one of those schools. That is the reason for the de-escalating buyout cost and the flattening of the buyout cost at 2030, 2031 at $75 million. There is one more aspect, one more element to this settlement. It is the revenue distribution model. The ACC referred to it in this new settlement as a, quote, brand initiative. This new brand initiative will be based on a 5-year rolling average. 60% of total ACC television revenue will go towards this initiative. More weight, according to ESPN, will be given to more recent viewership. A team's total viewership will then be divided by the total ACC viewership to equal its percentage of the money available in that 60% pool. The other 40% of the television revenue will be distributed evenly amongst all schools. So, the media deal signed by the Atlantic Coast Conference is all going into one big pot. They're going to take that pot and they're going to cut it 60-40. 40% of that money will be distributed to every member institution. The other 60% of that money will be taken and will be split into the viewership percentage of each school across sports. So, if you're Florida State and you're Clemson, and you're turning in playoff runs and 13-0 seasons, et cetera, college football playoff bids, obviously, your viewership is going to be higher, even if it is just because you're playing in more high-profile games. If, let's say, North Carolina come on and raise up, if UNC next year sees their football brand awareness go to the moon because they got Bill Belichick roaming the sideline, that's good for them. But in order to level that out so no one team has like a 1-year jump where they come in and they just raid that 60% of the total pot, they're going to say it's over a 5-year span. So what does that mean for, say, North Carolina? For North Carolina, now it would behoove them to heavily invest in the Bill Belichick era, to heavily invest in the hoodie so that the hoodie can get the results he got at the NFL level, so that UNC maybe becomes an annual ACC championship threat, an annual college football playoff threat, because the number that dictates how much of that 60% is going to come to you is over a 5-year rolling average. So if hoodie comes in and he kicks a bunch of ass for North Carolina this year, let's say shockingly, even with the departure of Amari and Hampton, who, by the way, we got to talk about because we got to talk draft later. Let's say North Carolina comes out next year and they go 11-1. Hell, let's have all the fun. Let's say they win the ACC outright next year. Let's say the hoodie brings the NFL mentality to college football and it works like a dream. UNC goes 11-1. They win the ACC. They're in the college football playoff. That one year in which it will likely be the most eyeballs that have ever been on the UNC football product is one of 5 years worth of numbers that are considered in that number. So that big boost is only a 20% representation to the total number that is considered to figure out what your slice of that 60% of the ACC pie is. So if I'm North Carolina and I know that I got to boost the numbers for half a decade, what's my goal? My goal is to keep Hoodie that long, to keep him successful that long, to keep him pointed on the upward trajectory. Because what I want if I'm North Carolina is not just for UNC to compete next year in the ACC. It's for them to compete in 26 and 27 and 28 and 29 so that 5-year average goes up. And then that 5-year average going up means I get a larger percentage of that 60% pool from the ACC. I do like this because it justifies schools investing in the football programs. It justifies schools going to work to make the best possible football program because it is not just about being good flash in the pan. It is not just about being good for 10 minutes. It's about being good for half a decade at a time. It's about good for keeping 5 straight seasons run together so that number skyrockets. Let's look at Florida State. 3 years ago, they stank. 2 years ago, they went 13-0, won the Atlantic Coast Conference. Shoulda, coulda, woulda been in the playoffs. By the way, you want to know part of the reason that they were real mad? They lost that on millions of dollars by not getting invited to the CFP. The ratings for Florida State that year obviously are going to have gone through the roof. Then they turn around last year. They turned out a 2-10 season. I will tell you for a fact, I know their viewership from last year is going to be booty. Why? Because I got a bunch of friends that live down in Florida. I got a bunch of fellas that went to Florida State University that were putting up on Facebook and Twitter and all that. I'm not watching football anymore. And stuck to it. Not those of y'all that said, I ain't never watching the NFL again, and then you did. They legitimately were just watching other college football, right? So those numbers went down for FSU. That factors into their 5-year viewership. They are going to get less money despite a 13-0 season because they turned in a 2-10 the year after that. So Florida State's got to look and go, that's not acceptable. Not just as a result for the football program. That's not acceptable because now our 5-year total average viewership took an absolute tank last year, which means Clemson is going to get more of that 60% because they carried the conference last year into the playoffs. Clemson has a distinct advantage over Florida State now because of that 5-year number. I actually, when I read this story yesterday, and I saw the words brand initiative, I was like, oh, God, here we go. Can it be about football? But here's a realization. In the year 2025, in my business, in my wife's business, in your business, in every business, I don't think there is a word that has more importance on it than brand. I don't. I protect the brand of this show. That is why when I moved here 5 years ago, 5 years and 4 days ago, when I moved here 5 years and 4 days ago, I got asked, what do you want the show to be called? And I'll take you behind the scenes. I got told, hey, we would prefer it if you had like a show name, right? Like a sports name with Rob Brown, The Blitz with Rob Brown, whatever it was going to be. And I said, I made one, not demand, but we'll say demand, request when I moved here. That one request was, I'd really like to keep it the Rob Brown Show. And they said, why? And I said, because I've kind of built a following under that brand. I've kind of built a following under that brand, and I don't want to hit a brand reset, even though I am resetting in a new market. And the powers that be here at the Radio Ranch, they didn't say yes because they wanted to appease the talent. They said yes because I actually showed them the numbers behind the brand that I had spent at that point 13 years building up under the brand, The Rob Brown Show. I was able to show them metrics of, here's the number of people that have followed me from station to station to station over my career. Here's the number of people that still engage with and participate in the show. And they looked at it and went, that's enough to justify allowing you to go against the station brand, which has always been to have the blank with host name here. They went, we're good enough with that, that you've got enough brand power. Brand matters because brand is what holds your attention. Welcome to 2025. When I say Nike, you think of the brand. When I say Starbucks, you think of their brand. That is why these major organizations or these major corporations, they go so hard. Why do you think Disney goes so hard and sues everybody who draws a fake Mickey on a notebook pad? To protect the Disney brand. It's the most valuable thing that they own. It ain't Cinderella's castle at Walt Disney World. We don't go to Walt Disney World because of the thrills. We go there for the brand, to be a part of that brand. So what the ACC has done in this settlement, I do think is good for them long term. It's good for Clemson and Florida State because the door is now open to go to the Big Ten, to go to the SEC, hell, maybe to go to the Big 12 down the line, depending on what happens with those grant of rights agreements and media broadcast agreements moving forward. But it's also good for the ACC because now every school in that conference is compelled to, not should want to, is compelled to invest in and grow the value of their brand because brand is what gets people to turn on televisions. Last year, week 4 of the season, I'm making up a hypothetical here, stick with me. Week 4 of the season, if we went out there on the streets and I said, hey, random guy walking down Main Street in any town, USA, name me the starting quarterback for Georgia this year. I'd be willing to bet most people couldn't do it. Name me the starting running backs. There's 2 of them at Ohio State this year. I bet you most of them couldn't do it. Yet, those 2 schools turned in more viewership than any other college football program. Did they do it because of Kirby Smart and Ryan Day? No. Did they do it because of Will Howard and Carson Beck? No. Did they do it because of the other ETN and Travion Henderson? No. They did it because of the brand. They did it because of the scarlet and gray block O. They did it because of the red and black circle G. People tune in for the brand. And so the ACC, in this agreement with Clemson and Florida State, has created a new model where, yes, football success matters. The brand matters most because people tune into brands. Americans tune in for the brand, not the performance, the brand. Now, your performance impacts your brand. Florida State's brand right now is probably at an all-time low. But the brand next year is what is going to get people to tune into Florida State football early. And they better win because if they start dropping L's on the heads early, that brand takes an even bigger hit. Florida State is 2-10 coming into next year. That's not a compelling football team to watch. But when they open the season, there's going to be a lot of people watching Florida State football out of the gate. Not because they expect to see dominant football, but because they expect to see, what's this brand going to do? What's this school going to do? The brand. So now the ACC has said, hey, schools, you have a reason to invest in your football program because results boost the brand. But you have a reason to go out and sell yourselves now. You have a reason to go out there and sell the brand now because that is how you are going to get as much of that 60% you can get. Everybody's getting their equal cut of the 40%. But of that 60%, if you want more, you earn it by pumping the brand. I'm interested in this because, again, I've said for a while, I think the ACC has a good shot of being the EEC. This is a step in that direction. All right, now, the Big Ten of sports flashes, Lonzo.
It's not the.
Hey, Big Ten. I thought that was.
It's the. LA Lakers star LeBron James became the first player in NBA history to achieve 50,000 points last night in a 136-115 win over the New Orleans Pelicans. James came into the game just 1 point away and knocked down his first shot, a 3 from the left wing, early in the first quarter, and finished with 34 points, 8 boards, and 6 assists. Gamecocks men's basketball team fell to the Georgia Bulldogs last night, 73-64. South Carolina brought the game to single digits inside of 2 minutes, but Georgia out-rebounded them down the stretch to seal the win. Colin Murray-Boyles scored 24 and Nick Pringle recorded 11, but no other Gamecocks reached double digits. Make sure you tune in this Saturday at 8 p.m. as Furman Paladins take on the Sanford Bulldogs in first round of the SoCon basketball tournament. It's Furman versus Sanford right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball, The Fan, Upstate.
We're going to step out for just a second, guys. Stay right there for me.
Yeah, you can see nothing.
Listen, Chris was in here.
You
right?
stay classy.
I'm always classy. Chris was in here. I had to talk to Captain America, Chris Evans, down the hall. We got stuff. Dewey texted the show. He said, "You're not cool. You suck." Except for he put, "You're not cool. YOUR." So I just automatically win that.
Hasn't he had enough? I mean, we don't know the details, but from our understanding,
Dewey, you were getting your ass kicked on Wire to Wire yesterday.
I don't know that he's not handling it, though. I mean, we don't know.
That's true.
He may be like, okay, just spell my name right. I mean,
You're YOUR, not cool. You suck. That's the message we got.
Yeah, you need to snort after you do that.
What I need.
You're not YOUR.
What I need is for people to understand the difference between your YOUR is in the possessive and you are YOU''RE.
What you need is tape on the sides of your glasses, not in the middle, because that would be too cool.
Expecting you to understand basic elementary level English is not a nerd thing. I'm not asking you to break down quantum mechanics for me here. Your versus you are. They're different words. They mean different things.
I am curious, though. If you're doing voice to text, does it automatically do it right?
Mine does. Mine runs voice to text through an AI
now. You have a superior phone.
I do. This is true.
But I am curious, if you do voice to text, does it make sure it's the right spelling of your?
Because it evaluates context and it recognizes what the follow-up of that word is. And mine will put your YOUR first, but then it will evaluate the next few words and go, okay, what he meant is you are is in YOU''RE, like Dewey did, but then failed.
What if you talk like Yoda? Will it still fix it?
I've never tried that. I don't know. No, I do not. Okay. It is 8 o'clock in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, which means it is time for the Audio Blitz, the best audio that we have heard over the past 24 hours since the last time that we did the Audio Blitz. Here is some of the good stuff we've come up with. Already played this once, going to play it again, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, 8:34 remaining in the first period of the game, and LeBron James makes history again.
He has 26 20-point games this year. LeBron, open three. Got it! 22 seasons, 40 years of age. LeBron James, 50,002 points. And he's not done. That's the good part about it all.
He's not done. He's not done at all. He's got... If he wins a chip with Luka this year, then he's done, right? Like, he walks out on
for
top.
sure. Yeah. I mean, you got to play with his son, won another championship, walks out with a bunch of records, and waves to the haters by and just
moves to Hollywood, makes $1 gazillion.
He'll go to Hollywood where he can fix his hair, and no one will make fun of him about it. If he shows up in a movie and has good hair, well, they know it's acting.
Acting? We'll see.
I really don't see him coming back. But what if they don't? Does he come back if they don't?
Yes, I think he comes back for 41. And I think he comes back for 41 because even though he's gotten to play with his kid, he hasn't really played with his kid. Like, he shared the court with Bronny a couple of times. But Bronny's been, I don't know if you saw this last week. There was a game where Bronny started the game on the bench, and by the time they were showing the Lakers in the late third quarter, Bronny was sitting in the seats behind the Lakers bench. He got replaced he literally was a row, maybe two behind the Lakers, just sitting there watching the game. And I'm like, dude, I don't care if you think he's a Nepo baby who got drafted just because he's the next James, which I don't. I think he was good enough to get drafted and about where he was, to be honest, as a developmental player, a player who should never be on a main roster this year, but good enough to be drafted there. I couldn't help but feel real bad for the dude when the camera panned over to Bron and Luka, and Bronny's back there with just with normal people. It wasn't like there's a secondary Lakers bench back there for the fifth line guys. No, he was just next to some lady eating a hot dog.
It
was wild.
I disagree with you only in this, that courtside seats cost a lot of money, so he was sitting there with rich people.
Yes, but not rich people who play for the Lakers.
Okay.
Just some lady who had courtside money.
But not
normies. Down.
He wasn't sitting with the normies. He was sitting with the rich folk.
Yes.
Which he is one of. So,
what you should say in that spot is the rich folk were sitting with him. But the point here is,
I don't feel bad about for him in that standpoint. No.
I do. I do. You kidding me? You get caught up in the main roster, you're feeling more good about yourself, and then they're like, "Hey, Bronny, get out of the way. Go sit in the regular seats, bud." All right.
Try living in that shadow. I mean, no matter what you do, you're living in that shadow.
You can say whatever you want. The man got removed from the bench and put in the regular seats.
Maybe he did it.
That hurts.
Maybe he did it by choice.
That hurts.
Maybe he's not allowed to eat on the bench, and he was hungry.
He wasn't eating.
So he went back. Yeah, when they showed him
I
on
appreciate
video.
what you're doing here. He got relegated. It sucks. It's embarrassing, even if he didn't do anything to do it.
Hey, G League, your seat's back there.
This is one of my favorite things. I love the 2 weeks after the combine, because you start to hear combine stories. You start to hear how guys have been treated, how they acted, what they said, how they said it, yada, yada, yada. And it's always fun because you get a bunch of stories about this year, which we are for sure going to be talking about coming up here in a minute. But you also get older stories of players and coaches gone by, like legendary Minnesota Vikings defensive back Fred Smoot, who sat down on the Barstool podcast with John Gruden. And he accused John Gruden
of being nicey?
No, of being meanie and passing on drafting him because of his combine.
I've been looking for coach for a long time. See, here go the funny thing about it. When I came out in 01 as one of the top defensive backs, I was looking at his team, and he had Warren Sapp and Brooks and all the rest of those guys, but he took one of my best friends, Dwight Smith, instead. Right? I could have had a ring as a Tampa Bay Buck, but Coach stole it from me.
Why didn't you take Smoot? Smoot comes into the meeting, and he says, "The world is made up of 70% water and 30% land." I cover the 30%. Tell him how you said it. How'd you say
The
it?
world is covered by 70% water. I cover the rest. Right? So I'm letting him know.
I said, "Get him out of here." I don't want to hear this.
That was the combine?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Why don't you draft
He don't
him
even
out
say,
like
"How
that?
you doing, Coach?" He starts giving me this line about the world. I said, "Get his ass out of here."
According to Fred Smoot and Chucky, before Smoot said, "Sup, Chucky? Sup, Coach?" he walked in, looked Gruden in the face, and said, "The world is covered 70% by water. I cover the other 30%. And Chucky said, "Get his ass out of here," and then passed on him.
By the way,
That's hilarious.
that's a good line.
It's a great line.
That's a really good line.
They said that about Darrell Revis back when we were in the Revis Island days. That was like a big catchphrase of his. It's been a catchphrase of DBs for a long time. I'm pretty sure Dion said it first back in like the early 90s. It's been around for a while. But what I like about this, and this is something I'm actually going to talk about coming up here a little later in the show, about this whole conversation of, is Shedeur Sanders cocky? Is he arrogant? Is he confident? Is he just Dion's kid? And all the different ways that people are looking at Shedeur based on not his interview, but reports about it. I listen to this and I'm like, yo, imagine if Chucky wouldn't have heard that, wouldn't have gone, "This guy's kind of a cocky, arrogant moron," and passed on him, if Fred Smoot would have been on that defense with Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks. That team would have been a dynasty if you'd have had an all-pro in Sapp, an all-pro in Brooks, and an all-pro in, so I said an all-poot right there. That's on me. An all-pro in Fred Smoot in that defensive backfield. You'd have had a Hall of Famer at all three levels. That would have been a dynasty, but he passed on him because of I'm going to say joke, but I don't know for sure. There is, let's see, what else do we want to get to?
We've all been around that arrogant guy who talks that way, and you can tell that it's not confidence, it's cockiness. And if you're close talent wise, at least you think that they're fairly close talent wise because they're coming out of college, you don't know for sure. You're gonna pick the guy who you think is more coachable.
I'm gonna go with everybody's gonna handle it differently. I get accused, and I think if we cut the humor out of the show for 4 seconds.
Is that possible?
No, but we can try. I get accused of being a cocky, arrogant hole all the time.
You forgot loud.
A cocky, loud, arrogant hole all the time.
There it is.
But the people who know me behind the scenes, I don't like me that much, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of me. I keep getting paid to do it, so I keep showing up and doing it. I'm not cocky or arrogant at all, but I get accused of it all the time because when it's job time, I jump on a mic and I go, hey, no ball. I'm funny. I'm smart. I'm whatever. I don't know that Fred Smoot saying water covers 70% of the earth, I cover the other 30%, would have put me off of drafting him. Here's what I do know. It put Chucky off of drafting him, and it cost him a Hall of Famer on his defense. Quick, Fred Smoot just told that story. Who was the guy he got that Smoot got passed on for? You don't even know. I don't even know. I don't remember. It was 8 seconds ago.
His best friend, his good friend.
Yeah, what was his name? Who was it that played DB for the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers? I don't remember.
If you're Fred Smoot, you got a lot of best friends, okay? I can't narrow it down to one.
The point here is, I think this is the point.
They won the Super Bowl without him.
Yes, they did.
Yes,
they did. They won one. Would they have won more if Smooty Patootie would have been a DB? I don't know. The point is, Chucky passed on a Hall of Famer because he made a joke, because he considered him cocky and arrogant. Maybe he was cocky and arrogant. You know what else he was? Real good at football.
He still sounds cocky and arrogant. I mean,
so do I.
Yeah.
Howie Roseman is the general manager for the Philadelphia Eagles, fresh off of winning his second Super Bowl ring and his third Super Bowl appearance. He was on a podcast with Todd McShay, and McShay asked him a question, and he gave maybe the greatest answer of all time.
When the confetti comes down, knowing everything that's gone into it, and that this is your baby, right? Like all the work and everything you've put in, all the years and the struggles. And what is it? Is it gratitude? Is it adrenaline? Like, what? Take us through that.
I'd say like the first one's almost like, can I say this?
Yes.
Can we delete this? Is this live? You don't know what I'm saying? You don't know what
this is the best part. You can be you.
It's almost like the first time you have sex. You're so glad you had sex. It's not even the quality of it. The second time,
That's actually great.
the second time, it's like, wow, I could actually have fun and enjoy this. It was more fun. It was like less of a relief, less of like just like, all right, I got one, like I can check that box off, and more like, let's enjoy it, let's have fun, understanding a little bit better how to celebrate it. When that confetti falls and you know you're the last team standing, that's the only thing you strive for going forward. It used to be when I was a GM, he'd be, all right, we won the division, we made the playoffs, all right, we'll probably get another year on our contract. Great, you know? And then once you feel that, it's almost like this is the only way I can truly feel good about a season.
My man said, winning your first Super Bowl is like doing the old unskinny bot for the first time. You're like, hey, I'm just glad to be here. Just glad to be here. You don't think about the quality. You don't think about enjoying it in the moment. You just think about, hey, I'm glad to be here. And then it happens the second time, and you're like, yeah, let's celebrate now. What I'm saying is, here on this Rob Brown radio program, we compare everything to three things: professional wrestling, food, and relationships. Why? Because those are 2.5 universal experiences. Everybody eats, everybody has relationships, and half of the people like professional wrestling. Those are the three things. My man Howie just went to the far extreme of comparing winning a Super Bowl to a relationship. He said the first time you do the boom boom, you're just glad to be here. You don't really appreciate it for what it is. But then once you're there, and once you've done it, and once you got it in the bag, now you know how to appreciate it. And now you realize that if you put in the effort and the energy to chase it down and make it happen, it's the best. I've never heard an answer that resonates with me like my dog, Howie Roseman. That's why that guy's going to win 8 more Super Bowls, because if he pursues Super Bowls like half of us have pursued pretty girls at bars over the years, he's never going to give up. I like that clip. It made me laugh. Tony Allen, former New Orleans Pelican. Speaking of my birds, allowing Braun. Every time history is made, it's always against my teams, right? Like, go look at every time that a player did the most blanks in a game. It's always against the Saints. Tony Allen played for my New Orleans Saints a very long time ago under head coach Alvin Gentry. We were not good back in the time. He was on He was on a podcast, the Grind City Media Pod, and he told a story, actually a couple of stories, rolled into one about his time with my favorite that I hate NBA team.
Is that Gentry?
Yeah, one of the worst coaches in the world. He was old, man. He was old. Forget speeches. He be like, fellas, that when we... What they doing wrong? What they doing wrong? Like, fellas, we all got a rebound. And
the name of the team? 1, 2, 3. What's the one we? Oh yeah, Pelicans. But Gentry was a good coach, man. I just had to frown, man. He didn't play me, bro. He didn't play me. He didn't play me, bro. I just had to frown. Sometimes we had practice on the football field. We shooting baskets in the goal. Y'all had Popeyes for breakfast, bro? Man, whatever the Saints didn't eat, we got the leftovers. Shout out to the Pelicans. That's the worst organization.
Nothing like listening to a former player and 3 podcasters die laughing at the complete futility of your basketball program.
Whoever the one guy was, the laugh. Listen, dude, just silent laugh going forward. That laugh was rough. You know the one I'm talking about. And I don't know who it was.
Lonzo out here.
Come on.
Judging people.
Well, the problem is the laugh overshadowed everything and made it hard to focus on anything else other than the laugh. Just saying.
I don't care about that. I care about the fact that I got a former player going on a popular basketball podcast saying a head coach that is another guy on a long list of head coaches in New Orleans that I wanted canned well before he was bringing his players to the other team's facility. Not a basketball team, the football team's facility to practice. Didn't know what he wanted to tell his team to do in games, and we just kept them around for a long time.
So you're buying all that?
Yeah.
I just think he was just cracking on the team. I don't think that stuff is true.
Because I watched Alvin Gentry coach, and the majority of time they would show Gentry on the end of the bench in a heated game, and he was this. Coach, we're down 2. There's a minute and a half left to play. We're down 2 to the champs.
That's like me at every sporting event. I mean,
you're not the head coach. Lonzo, you're not the head coach of the NBA's New Orleans Pelicans.
Maybe maybe people understood what he was pointing at.
They lost all the games, so it doesn't matter.
Every single one of them?
All of them. I don't think we won a game for 9 years. Oh, that made me real mad. That made me real mad. Hey, when we come back here in just a minute from now, I got a little bit more sound I want to play for you. Todd Mache talked about Travis Hunter. I'll play that for you. Bubba Ray Dudley and The Undertaker did a podcast together, the Busted Open After Dark pod. They had a pretty funny moment I'm going to share with you. What else we got? I got Julian Edelman and Gronk being the greatest on-air duo of all time. We'll play that for you. And a heated debate between Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve that we are going to decide for them. All that coming up on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I'm going to run to the restroom, people.
Yeah, me too.
All right, stay right there. We'll BRB. Shout out to Miss Cassidy joining us on the stream for the first time. Longtime listener, absolute P1, captaincy in the Armada, and the only person who's ever come up to me at one of our wrestling tailgates and been like, I'm hanging out with you. Shout out Cassidy joining us on the YouTube stream. I'm glad you're here.
You only noticed like an hour late, but I mean, you noticed. What? He just said on the wire to wire. On the wire to wire. It's like when my wife says the Twitter.
The Twitter.
Yeah.
We are going to take this probably to 8:35 because Benetti had to park at the church because of the basketball tournament, so he's going to be 2 or 3 late. So I'll give him a minute to catch.
He's slight. Run.
He's slight. We got Mark Benetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, coming up in the next segment. He just texted me. He said, when are we on? Just parked at the rink. Took forever. Had to park at the church across the street. It's full. The SEC tournament obviously tipping off here in, almost 9 o'clock, so about 3.5 hours. We'll get game number 1.
Wait. He doesn't have VIP parking?
I don't know if he doesn't or if we'll find out because he's joining the show live on the stream.
Because you've got that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I've been in that parking lot. I know you have too.
Benetti just texted me and said, had to stroll about 6 blocks to get there. When do we go on? I was like, after you catch your breath, buddy.
My dude looks like he could run a marathon.
Benetti's in shape. Of all the local broadcasters I know, I got to think Benetti and Diesel are the 2 most in shape. And, I think he's going to be fine. Benetti still skates.
I was going to say, I was thinking Benetti busts out the skateboard.
Yeah, no, I think he still plays. I think he still gets out there and plays a little beer league hockey. We'll find out. Voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, Mark Benetti, joins us here in about 14 minutes from right now. Before we get there, though, got a couple more audio clips I'm going to play for you. My favorite dynamic duo in the broadcast world right now, Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski. Edelman, because he's just a dude, and Rob, because he's absolutely just a bro. He's just a bro. And I love him for it.
Yeah, that's basically the whole podcast. That and bleep. bleep.
I know. I love it. I am here for what I now
because you're a substance guy, of course.
Because of what I now deem as radio bro. It's where you do radio, but just as bros who like to have a good time. So Edelman and Gronk did 2 segments. Gronk went to Australia. Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. And when asked by Julian Edelman about his trip to Australia, here's what Gronk said.
So, Rob, what's up, bro? Where you been? You were in Australia?
I was there, man. It was a good time. My bucket list of what I really wanted to do there was meet a kangaroo. And I wanted to meet a wild kangaroo.
How was the kangaroo? Did he fight you?
Well, that's the thing. I wanted to meet a kangaroo. I wanted to throw some haymakers. I wanted the kangaroo to throw some haymakers back at me. But unfortunately, I didn't get to see any wild kangaroos like that. We had a family zoo come to us, and they brought a baby kangaroo, which wasn't full size, but it was one of the cutest things. It kind of was like a pet dog. And on top of that, they brought a koala bear, which was really cool. I learned a lot about koala bears, how they eat eucalyptus all day long and they stay high in stone for 23 hours out of the day. I got to hold a wombat, which is like a koala bear's brother. And a wombat was really cool, man. It was comfortable. It treated me like family. And then also I got to hang out with an enchilada. Enchilada.
An enchilada. I love eating those.
Yeah, me too. But you won't eat this freaking enchilada because it has all these porcupines coming out.
Okay.
You talking about a chinchilla?
No, he's talking about an animal called an echidna. Echidna. Which is, indeed, covered in spikes like a porcupine. Rob Gronkowski believes those spikes are called porcupines. Porcupine's the animal. They're quills.
By the way, how many edits had to be in that?
0. They went through that entire, not a bleep.
Dude, that's not what I mean. Listen to how chopped up that sounded.
Oh, well, that's recorded from a social media clip. That's not from the pod. That's from a social media clip.
All right.
Here's what I love. I love that there's not 3 seconds of that clip that goes by that I can't break something down. Like, for instance, the fact that Rob Gronkowski got to go to Australia, and he said, my bucket list item was, and I was like, oh, what was it? Was it see the Gold Coast? Was it go to the Sydney Opera House? Was it travel the Outback? Was it see Steve Austin's...
Why is surfing not the top of the list?
That's the Gold Coast. Is it surfing? Is it seeing Steve Irwin's family zoo? And he said, no, my bucket list was to fist fight a kangaroo in the wild, which, okay, kind of respectable. Like, I get it. Like, all of us have had the conversation of, could you beat up wild animal blank? So I get it. Then he said, I got to see a koala bear. You know, my favorite part of the koala bear is, I thought to myself, is it because it's so cute and cuddly? Is it because it's such a random animal that, like, we know what they are. We've seen them all the time, but you can only see them in Australia or at a zoo, and you got to get up close and personal. He said, no, my favorite thing about a koala bear is that it's stoned all the time, and that's hilarious. Great. And then he ended up by, and I understand maybe not recalling the name of an echidna. It's not exactly an animal that is in the daily lexicon of wildlife here in the States.
I'm still not sure it's real.
It was called an enchilada. He didn't just go, there's another animal kind of looks like a porcupine, got quills and is spiky and all that, and I got to see that, and it was really cool. No. He said I got to hang out with an enchilada, and he was just convinced the name of that animal was an enchilada. That's spectacular. Fantastic.
Okay, admittedly, I have to look this up because your pronunciation's not always the greatest, and I've never heard of an echidna before. And as I start to type it in, the first thing is echidna. The second thing is enchilada. So
again, I understand.
So maybe he looked up how to say it.
I understand the again, like
maybe they look like they have like a platypus beak.
Yeah,
they're
Australian. They're marsupials from Australia. They're only in Australia, much like most animals in Australia.
There's a guy
only there. I understand it, and I understand maybe not remembering echidna off the top of your head. What I'm going with here is you went to enchilada. That's where you ended up at.
Did you know what an echidna was before?
Yes, because I've watched every wildlife animal show that's ever been on TV.
I don't believe in all my years of living I've ever heard of an echidna before.
I've watched all of them. I know all of them. I know them all well. And then they followed up that conversation with this one. And it's doing the stupid thing again. Cool. Hang on 2 seconds, because I'm not leaving this segment without playing you this. And I'm playing you this because I appreciate the moment of self-actualization that Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman had. I appreciate, to me, acknowledging who and what you are is the single most important thing any person can do. It is the most important thing for your ability to grow and improve. And Julian and Rob get it.
We're not the smartest dudes, Julian.
No.
But we're also not the biggest idiots. I mean, we have common sense.
I would say we're idiots. We're not dumb.
Yes. We are idiots in a good way, though. In the best way
we're
possible.
Not like IQ gonna like knock you off the charts. We're also not gonna spend, like all your money. If you have like $2, you're gonna spend 50. That's like common sense.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. You hit it right on the nose. And our reading skills, I wouldn't say are,
No, my reading skills are terrible. Everyone
up
knows.
there. So this is gonna help my reading skills. Just being able to talk. So we're building muscles.
I like that. I like that from Gronk and Julian. I like that from Edelman and Rob. I like the moment of realization. Look, we're not the smartest guys in the room, but we're not idiots. I mean, we are idiots, but we're not idiots, which is something I say daily on this show. Look, I'm not an idiot. Okay, I am an idiot, but I'm not that kind of idiot, right? Bubba Ray Dudley and The Undertaker, obviously a pair of icons in the sports entertainment realm.
They've been doing this a lot, by the way. You should check it out since they started doing LFG together. Undertaker's been joining Bubba Ray on his After Dark podcast. It's pretty good.
So Bubba Ray does maybe the most listened to wrestling podcast in the world called Busted Open. He does a spinoff called Busted Open After Dark, where he will bring in legends and they will just sit there and pound Jack Daniels together.
I'm having a blast. Dead man, I hope you are also. We're out of Jack Daniels.
All right. Well, hey, man, it was good to see you again.
Yep.
Man, I'll see you.
Just so you guys know, I'm putting the bottle up right here. You can see the empty bottle of Jack. I would have loved to have done one more shot with the American Badass, but we're out of Jack.
Or so it would seem.
What?
But wait.
But wait.
There's more. Porno. Bottle number 2. Cracking it open right now.
Holy
Yep.
The boys.
Wow, that was the clip you played.
The boys. I was watching.
Nothing insightful about wrestling, which it was
This segment's not for insight.
Okay,
This segment's entertainment
We just got to. They found another bottle of.
No. No. Let me tell you why I played that clip. Why I love that clip.
Hey, my computer is about to optimize.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I played that clip and why I love that clip. I played that clip. And I love that clip for one reason and one reason alone. I was watching the Tiger Golf League yesterday, or as they call it so that they don't call it the Tiger Golf League, the Tomorrow Golf League yesterday. And I have to tell you, I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine who I have gotten into the TGL because it is absolutely electrifying entertainment. And we were texting back and forth as Jupiter was taking on Atlanta yesterday. Playoff seeds on the line for the Atlanta team. And he said, I can't figure out why I like this so much. I can't figure out why I'm attracted to this. I don't sit around and watch guys play video games on stream, on Twitch. I don't know why I like this so much. It's basically them playing video games but with a golf club. And I said, let me tell you why. You like this so much because it's the boys being the boys. You like this because it's them playing golf the way you and I go play golf. It's us sitting in a golf cart on the green next to 7, bumping George Strait or The Weeknd or Kendrick out of our speaker. It's us bringing that speaker onto the green so we can keep listening to Nelly when we're dropping putts from 8 feet, or more realistically, missing putts from 8 feet. It's us playing Tiger Woods on the Xbox at night, laughing at each other for being bad at this, except it's the best golfers in the world doing it. You're watching them, people that we have no connection with when they are playing golf, play golf the way that we play golf. I played that clip because Bubba Ray and Undertaker sounded like me and the boys. Oh, man, we're out of booze. All right, buddy, good to see you. No, we're not. They're just the boys. I like clips that humanize people. I like clips that bring people into my world and not expect me to come into theirs. And the fact that Bubba sold the Taker that we're out of whiskey, and Taker was like, oh, all right, well, see you later. And then Bubba hit him with the swerve of, no, we're not. It made me feel like they're just the boys. I love the TGL. I appreciate that moment out of Bubba Ray. That's spectacular. You know what else I appreciate? Mark Bonetti, the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, taking a few minutes to join us on the show, which he will do in the next segment. We'll catch up with the Bunnies next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, we're going to bop out for... Bop out?
We're going to bop out for just a moment, but don't worry, we'll be right back.
You see how much gray is in my beard? That's the amount of gray of someone who says we're going to bebop out of here for a minute.
Wow. Offended?
Yeah, but you would say that. I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. I would not say that. That's the whole point.
We're going to step out for a minute and get Bonetti set up. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
stop. Why don't you go there instead?
Mark Benetti, you a Queen Don't Stop Me Now fan?
Love it.
My man. My guy.
Absolutely love it.
My guy. That is
anything
on
Queen
the
does is a banger, Rob.
Dude, it's a bang. That is on the list of, like, if Rob Brown's in a crappy mood, I can play this song and it's going to rebound me. Don't Stop Me Now is at, like, power rank number 1 just ahead of AC/DC Shoot to Thrill.
I love Queen, by the way. I just hate that song, okay?
Wow.
I'd rather hear the entire soundtrack from Flash Gordon, which was done by Queen.
It's true. That's a hot take, though. I don't know.
That's a hot take. I concur. I've
I
been
haven't
telling
had
him that
enough
for
coffee
years
to
now.
dissect that. I haven't had enough coffee to dissect that. Like, as I famously say around Caldwell in the booth, there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot. You know, sometimes I like to be validated. Sometimes I like to hear other geniuses say, no, Rob Brown, you're exactly correct in the thing that you're saying.
Validated as in parking?
No, as in somebody goes, Rob Brown, turns out you know exactly what the hell you're talking about. And I like it when it comes from other stinking geniuses in the sports broadcasting world, stinking geniuses like the young man who serves as the voice of Your My Our Greenville Swamp Rabbits, the mouth of the squad himself, Mark Benetti, is joining us on our live stream at facebook.com/The Fan Upstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube, The Fan Upstate on X, The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitch. And Lonzo and I, Mark Benetti, have been butting heads for, I don't know, I've lived here 5 months and 4 days. 5 years and 4 days. So we have been butting heads for 5 years and 3 days about the greatness that is Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. And you have just said you're on board with one of the greatest feel-good anthems of all time.
100%, without a doubt. Actually, the very first time I heard Don't Stop Me Now, I was in high school. I was the drum major of my high school's marching band, and our halftime show was a Queen show. And so to get ready for all the standards and whatnot, I just started listening to Queen for an entire summer. And that was just an absolute banger. I've loved it ever since.
I just want to point out in my defense, I don't really need to defend myself, but I love Queen. I just don't like that song. And Benetti just threw up the John Cena sign. I don't know if you saw it. I saw it. Okay, that's a heel move. And the fact that one of your friends agrees with you, shocker.
I mean, Mark Benetti is absolutely my friend both on and off the air, but he's also a genius of stage and screen. The man understands classic soundtracks is all I'm saying.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say I'm a genius. I appreciate the tire pump, but I mean, I just like to think I've got good taste.
Me too. Totally agree because we have the same taste. Mark Benetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbit, is joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate every Wednesday at 8:40. We talk a little bunny hockey and Marky Mark, not the roadie that the boys wanted to start a 7-game road trip. 0 for 3 out of the gate. 1 against Orlando on Friday, 2 against Jacksonville, the butthole of America, on Saturday and Sunday. What can the fellas do with 4 more on the road before they get back to the well for a big weekend next weekend? What went wrong in Florida, and how do we get it fixed to pick up a couple of dubs before we come back to the crib?
So Coach Mountain aptly pointed out in in all 3 games, the team did not start at puck drop. They were not here at puck drop ready to go. And it showed because, Orlando, you went into the break 0-0 to go into period 2, but you were outshot 15-5, I believe was the margin, or 13-5, something within that ballpark. And before you know it, they get a shorthanded goal. Probably shouldn't have counted because Miles Gendry got boarded on the sequence and it wasn't called. It is what it is. You have to deal with what you're given. So now you're down 1-0. You go on the penalty kill later. They get a power play goal. I mean, the 5-on-5 offense just wasn't there. You look at all 3 games, 2 goals were scored. 1 of them was in 5-on-5 hockey. Actually, I take that back. None of them were in 5-on-5 because the 1 goal against Orlando to avoid the shutout was a 6-on-3 power play with the goaltender pulled. And then the only goal in Jacksonville was a power play goal. So there were 0 5-on-5 even strike goals scored. So 5-on-5 offense not being there was 1. But at puck drop, not being dialed and ready to go was another. And so, you saw some response. You saw some tendencies change as the weekend went on, but ultimately that was what was lacking. And it's unfortunate because the team has points in 6 consecutive home games. So you thought that success would transfer to road play. And what made the home streak work was 5-on-5 offense. You looked at that game against Atlanta, the 8-2 obliteration that game was for the post-game concert, and 5 goals were 5-on-5, 1 was shorthanded, 2 were 4-on-4. So 7 out of 8 goals were at least even strength. And that made a heck of a difference. And unfortunately, the even strength offense just wasn't there.
I appreciate Mark Bonetti, not just for the talent and willingness to give us 20 minutes a week. I also appreciate the honesty because I think it's, to me, important, even those of us affiliated and associated with the team, to be honest about it. It was not the hockey team that we saw playing that 3-game set when they went on the road. Do you have any diagnosis of that? Was it just a matter of it being 5 days, being a long roadie, being on a bus, on a plane, on a train, whatever? Or was this just a matter of, and this happens, I don't care who you are, it happens to LeBron James, it happened to Wayne Gretzky and everybody. You go out there, you go on a bit of a hot streak, and maybe you kind of pull off the throttle a little bit.
I wouldn't say that they pulled off the throttle. And to be perfectly honest, Rob, I don't know if there's necessarily one diagnosable thing with it. It's just you identify what the trend was. And both times the start, or all 3 games, the start wasn't there. And all 3 games, 5-on-5 hockey wasn't there. And so when you don't start on time, you just, that's mental focus. You just have to dial it in. That odd puck drop, you're ready to go, guns blazing. You take a hit, you give a hit, you take a shot, you block a shot, and just kind of go along with that. Coach Mountain loves to say, and he's absolutely right on every single facet of it, that it starts in practice. So what are your practice habits? Are you showing up to practice ready to go as if you're taking the opening puck drop to a game? Are you going to hit as if you're trying to get intense, ready to go for road competition or any kind of competition? And then for the 5-on-5 offense, it's sticking to what worked. The goaltending worked, the defensive zone worked. You protected your netminder, you stayed disciplined, and then by being sound defensively, you were able to transition the opposite way and have fun in the ozone. So I think it's just getting back to what makes this team click. And you and I have seen it, whether it's 8-2, whether it's 3-0, whether it's even a 5-4 shootout win, when this team stays to 5-on-5, when they stay out of the box, and when they commit to defense, good things happen.
Talking to Mark Bonetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. If there is a silver lining we're looking for here, Mark Bonetti, it's after that 3-game slide to start the road trip. The boys get a full 4 days off. They don't drop it again until Friday 4th. This would be, to me, an unfortunate spot to find one of those Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday night games. This is a good chance. And you and I, the last time the team went on one of these 2-week road trips, talked about how being able to communicate, build chemistry, you're around each other and nobody else for that long. That plus a 4-day stretch here, I would expect, at least I hope, a different team to be on the ice 7:30 p.m. on the road at Savannah.
100%. And you also have to recognize the situation, too. You've got 2 slightly different opponents. You've got Savannah, who you haven't seen in a couple of weeks since back in February. You get Orlando, who you already saw, who you know you owe. So there's some mental fortitude there to come into that game, get ready to go no matter what, because you owe these guys, and they're obviously very important. You know, look, the situation, I'm looking at the standings right now and some of the calculations I've done, the situation doesn't look great, but you still have a shot, right? And so when you recognize that you got to play desperate all 3 games, you're against somebody you haven't played in a couple of weeks, and then you're almost immediately rematching somebody that gave it to you the last time out, it makes for what could be a very exciting week of hockey. Savannah's starting to get back to 100% now. Charlotte was the most injured AHL team in the league. They had 12 or 13 guys on IR at one point, so they were basically the Charlotte Ghost Pirates at one point in the AHL with how many guys they had called up on contract. So now Savannah's starting to get back to 100%. You know that they still have a shot, 15 points out of a playoff spot. They've got 6 games in hand on Orlando right now, so they're looking to make a run here. And then you've got Orlando, who's trying to hold serve on that 4th spot. Not to mention, for us, those are 4-point swings both of those nights. So, you know, for just to put it into perspective, the Swamp Rabbits elimination number is 18. So by any combination of points lost by the Swamp Rabbits or gained by the Solar Bears, that number goes down. So let's just assume the worst. If Saturday the Solar Bears win in overtime, or I'm sorry, in regulation, that number goes down to 14 in a blink. And so if you win that game in regulation, that number stays at 18, and you get to gain some ground here with only 18 games to go. So time's running out, but that puts a little bit more pressure into the cooker for the weekend.
Mark Benetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. And I think the other aspect we have to talk about, and this comes up a couple of times for every team at this level through every season, but we're kind of at the point now where teams like Ontario and Charlotte, they're starting to call guys up because they're dealing with their own injuries. They see guys at this level starting to get hot. Dryden McKay, who had an incredible streak of games going, he gets called up to Ontario. This is a spot where, to me, as much as Kyle Mountain's got to be able to go in that locker room, have that conversation with the boys to have them ready to play at 7 o'clock and not at 7:45, it's also being able to manage the roster, manage the personnel, make sure he's got the right chemistry, the right shifts, the right lines, etc. Not an easy job for a guy like Kyle Mountain at this point in the season to try to, on one hand, have that roster management, that development angle. On the other hand, go, we'd like to make the playoffs, maybe make a dark horse run to a Kelly Cup here.
Well, so the mindset's always going to be make the run until the math says you have no shot in any kind of calculation situation whatsoever. That's going to be the goal, is to get in, because you have to operate like that. If you don't, then you're doing everybody a disservice. And I know he's operating on, we're getting in this thing until they tell us, hey, you're done. So, and that, quite frankly, Rob, again, when you look at the numbers, it's still far off. I mean, you have to take care of what you can take care of. If you're not careful, it can slip away from you. But I mean, with 18 games to go, there's still as good a shot as anybody to get in. The other thing on the roster management point, too, yes, you're right. People are getting called up. You had Drew Krebs go up and then come back down. Parker Berg went up last week. Dryden McKay went up. Who knows who else Ontario or Los Angeles is going to call up, because the Reign and the Kings are poised to make a playoff run here again. But then you also have to realize, not just for the Swamp Rabbits, but for everybody else in the ECHL, whether you're in the bracket or not, or trying to get in it or solidifying your spot, college hockey ends this weekend in the regular season. Now, there's still the tournament to be played. There's still conference tournaments to get sorted out, and then the Frozen Four comes up. But a lot of college players that want to try their hand at the pro ranks are going to be free agents. And so now he's looking for, what can I do to make us better in the immediate, while also building for the future or building for a potential playoff? Who's a diamond in the rough that could come out of Vermont or UNO or Minnesota State Mankato or Clarkson or Colgate that maybe gives you that extra edge? Or even if you don't make the playoffs, who sets the foundation for a strong rookie class coming into next year too? So it's a heck of a 4D chess match here. And I'm excited to see what he does with it, because this is where, I looked to Orlando last year and they got Spencer Kirsten out of Sacred Heart. And that guy, for every time you've heard me call a Solar Bears game that he has a point or two or three, he's been a thorn in our side. Imagine what he's done against the rest of the league. He's one of the leading rookie scorers in the ECHL, if not the leading rookie scorer, and was a key catalyst to them getting to round two. So I'm not saying you're going to find that every year, but you want to find that next Spencer Kirsten. For me, when I was with the Rapid City Rush my second year, you want to find that Cody Ferrio, who got called up from Pensacola in the SPHL and put together 45 points in 30 games and got you home ice advantage and got you into round two. So this is a very unique time of year where you're looking for the next best thing, and you might just find it.
Shout out Pensacola Ice Flyers, by the way. First team I ever worked for. Well done. Mark Benetti, voice of the Swamp Rabbits. One more, we'll let you go. You got a couple more ahead of you before the next time home. Friday night, Savannah, a pair against Orlando. Saturday, Sunday, a midweeker on the road at your in-state rival over in Charleston to take on the Rays. And then we're back home. Not just back home, but taking on Kansas City, a team that we don't often see. And you and I have talked about this before. To me, make a run, hold serve, win more than you lose in the next four, and give yourself an opportunity against an opponent you don't see very often to maybe kind of solidify your identity a little bit, back at the crib, back home in front of the home fans, back in your own barn. This, to me, is a wildly important 6-game stretch for the Greenville Swamp Rabbits.
100% it is. And, you don't want to get overly dramatic and say this is the season, but again, you're playing desperation hockey, so you might as well just put that mindset in your head and go, okay, this is it. We're playing for our lives here, and every game moving forward is a playoff game. Still a slight margin of error, but you don't want to throw chance to that, right? So for the Swamp Rabbits, yeah, it's getting back to what worked, getting back to 5-on-5. You got to stay out of the box. The penalty kill didn't give up a goal in the finale against Jacksonville. They killed off 5, 4 of them coming in the second period. It was absolutely stalwart, and here's hoping that's the jumpstart that PK needed to get back on the horse, get back to over 80%, and then start working their way back into the top 15, top 10 of the league where they've been the most of the year. But if you can do that, you've got a really good shot against a high-powered Savannah team, against an Orlando team that it always is a grinder against no matter what, dating back to last year's series and the playoffs and everything in between. your in-state rival, you owe those guys in that building. That is one of the toughest buildings to play in this year. South Carolina is one of 2 or 3 teams in the league that has over 20 wins on home ice. So, and less than 5 regulation losses at home. So that's going to be a gauntlet no matter what. And then you've got a Kansas City team, defending Western Conference champion. They've got one of the best goaltenders in the league in Jack LaFontaine. You've got a team that has one of the top scorers in Cade Borchardt, both goals and points in the league, and a power play that's lethal. Plus the assistant coach I worked with for 6 out of 7 years in Rapid City at one point, Riley Weslowski, all-time games played leader, his numbers retired there. So certainly a team that's more than capable of going on another run to the Kelly Cup final. Should be very difficult, but it'll also bring out the best in you. You know, that's why we get in sports. It's for the challenge. It's for the thrill of competition. So I'm excited to see what this team does, because these next 7 games coming up are going to be awesome.
Mark Bonetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits and a Rob Brown Show legend, if I may bestow that title upon him. They join us, the Bunnies do, every Wednesday at 8:40 to talk a little hockey. My man, you're an icon. I'll see you later this afternoon, pal. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Done and done. Mark Bonetti, an icon in the world of sports broadcasting. When we come back, we go from one icon to the next. Is Denton Day, host of College Football Overtime on SiriusXM, joins us. We'll get his thoughts on this ACC settlement that was reached with Clemson and Florida State yesterday. Another broadcasting icon, Lonzo, when he does a Sports Flash.
I'm award-winning. The Gamecock men's basketball team fell to the Georgia Bulldogs last night, 73-64. South Carolina brought the game to single digits inside of 2 minutes, but Georgia out-rebounded them down the stretch to seal the win. Colin Murray Boyles scored 24 and Nick Pringle recorded 11, but no other Gamecock reached double digits. The number 1 team in America, the Auburn Tigers, were dominated last night by the Texas A&M Aggies. Oh, being dominated by an Aggie. 83-72, the Tigers' worst performance of the season. The win was A&M's first ever over an AP number 1 ranked team, and ends Auburn's 6-game win streak. If you're not on the stream, you have no idea what he was just doing. Tune in Saturday at 8 p.m. as the Furman Paladins take on the Sanford Bulldogs in the first round of the SoCon basketball tournament. It's Furman versus Sanford right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, Upstate. You definitely got me with that one. Gotta say, Trey, one of my favorite Queen songs is My Best Friend. I think it's better than a lot of the other songs that Rob likes, because he's wrong.
It's a great song. It is no Don't Stop Me Now.
Also, Fat Bottom Girl's definitely better than that. Yeah.
That's the most accurate song that Queen performs.
Bohemian Rhapsody for sure. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. I mean, there's just so many things. But you mentioned Highlander. I believe the song you're talking about is Who Wants to Live Forever. Also, as a radio person, Radio Gaga.
That's actually on my list of songs I'm not a big fan of. I don't know why it annoys me.
How could you not? Watching that Live Aid performance live, not there, of course, but on TV. I don't know if you were when that was exactly, and if you were alive or not, but it was.
I was not. It was the year I was born, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. The crowd reaction and all that. I mean,
I've obviously watched it back.
Yeah, I was watching that live, going, dude.
Let's add one more legend to the broadcast booth here and get his thoughts on it. Denton Day, your feelings on Queen's mega hit, Don't Stop Me Now.
I like it. Is someone anti-Queen around here?
No. He's saying it's like the best Queen song ever.
That's my go-to feel-good vibe song.
Which it's not the best Queen song.
I need good vibes. I go, Don't Stop Me Now.
If it's good vibes, I would agree with that. But Bohemian Rhapsody is like a better song.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. I didn't say it was a great song. I said as feel-good vibes go, like that and Shoot the Thrill are
just because
top of the list.
I don't like that particular Queen song and I like almost every other song they did, then I'm the bad guy. All right?
We just said you're wrong about Don't Stop Me Now.
All right. I would do the rock thing, but I'm not sure I could do it right.
Yeah, you'd have to count your fingers while you're slitting throats. I was like, why was there one? It started with one and then there was two. Why did it go that way?
Denton Day, The Rock put up 2 fingers because they're going to get somebody else, and I theorize it's Triple H. I theorize Dwayne and John are going for Triple H next.
No, it's CM Punk, dude. I mean, he's not in the main event, which he wants to be. It's going after CM Punk.
I think it's going to be Seth, Triple H's protege.
I mean, could be.
The man with the most hate in his heart in the world.
I mean, that's John Cena. They just trademarked Break-A-Wish. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Sometimes you trademark something so someone else can't use it. Doesn't mean they're going to use it.
I mean, it doesn't. Doesn't mean they're not going to use it. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now on the live stream because he was kind enough to step away from his real job to come on board and talk about dumb stuff with me and Lonzo, the legend himself, host of College Football Overtime on SiriusXM, host of whatever show they need him to host on the BetMGM network, the icon Denton Day joining us here. What's up, fella?
What up, fellas? It's funny you say stepping away from my job. I was actually stepping away from a conversation with our boss at the BetMGM network. So,
am I still employed?
You're still employed. In fact, he says hello. So not only you're employed, he sends well wishes.
I love that. Good
Wait. Uh-oh. He sent well wishes.
Yeah, that gives see me in my office after the show vibes.
Not future endeavors, just well wishes.
I'll take that. For now, I will take it. Denton Day joining us here on the show to talk a little college football. Maybe we get into the NFL. We'll find out. I want to start Denton Day with what is the biggest news, at least down here in my region of the country, the beautiful upstate of South Carolina, right down the road from Clemson, where that school, as well as Florida State, reached a settlement with the ACC yesterday. That settlement increases the amount of money based on the amount of viewership that any individual program within the conference brings to the table. It also drops the exit fee to leave the ACC dramatically. Do you have any thoughts on that settlement? Because to me, it just kind of felt like not the ACC trying to prevent Florida State and Clemson from leaving, because I still think they are. I just think we pushed it to like 2031. I think it's just the ACC trying to buy themselves time with those brands to figure out how they're going to exist afterwards.
I would agree with the latter. It also feels like a kind of like, fine, here. This is what you want. You want something else. We will give this to you. They're not going to stop, because as years progress, as we get closer, to the Super League that is inevitably coming, they're going to see the SEC and Big Ten get way more money, and then we'll do this song and dance, maybe not next year, but in 2 or 3 years, because they're going to want more money. I think it is kind of funny that if they're getting paid based on viewership, that almost feels in a way like a program at NIL. The ACC is giving them, all right, if you feel like you are valued at this, let's see if you are actually valued at this. I think the inevitable is that the ACC in years to come is not going to exist, but at the very least, it saves itself at least another 2-3 years. Hopefully long enough to where basketball becomes relevant again in the conference, because hot damn, outside of Duke, they stink this year.
Hey, maybe a little love to my Clemson Tigers down here in the upstate. That's not a bad little basketball team, bro. But hey, they're one of 9 teams in that KenPom 21-26 to win a natty club, which is pretty good.
That is true. All right, so Clemson and Duke, and then everyone else stinks. Yet we'll still get Duke, UNC shoved down our throat this weekend. Can't wait.
Yeah, of course. Of course we will. Without a doubt. That's how the big dogs roll. Denton Day joining us here on the show. Double D, I have said for a hot minute here, the ultimate reality is we end up, I don't know if we end up with a Super League. I think we end up with 2. I think the SEC is one. The Big Ten is one. They're going to figure out a way to drive an already blossoming partnership between the two of them forward. The Big 12 in the ACC, I think, are just trying to figure out if there is viability as a third member of that trio, if they can get there. I think it ends up being the Big 12. I think they've built a better foundation to stand on. the ACC basically threw a Hail Mary to keep Clemson and Florida State in the fold for at least 7 years so that they can kind of build off of that. My question is, do you think when this is all said and done, whether it's 2036 when the ACC grant of rights is over, if it's 2040, or hell, if it's 2030 when Florida State and Clemson can leave for their cheapest, do we end up with one Super League? Do we end up with two super conferences that play each other AFC, NFC style? Or do we end up with a third team that's like, hey, you weren't welcome in the big dog, so come play here even though you'll never win a natty?
I feel like the one Super League, two conferences is much more realistic because I don't think it'll be hard to take teams from that third conference that you might like, especially if you do think just a little bit outside of football. So like Duke basketball could be worth something. Kansas basketball could be worth something. And I feel like that would make it a lot easier to go and get some of those teams. Because what I don't think is going to happen, Rob, in whatever kind of scenario we get here, one Super League, conferences, three, whatever, I cannot imagine that teams are going to get kicked out of the SEC and Big Ten, right? Or something would have to go really, really wrong for teams to get kicked out, even though that we know Vanderbilt has not been exceptional outside of the run that they had this year. And there have been teams in the Big Ten, Maryland, Rutgers, Indiana. They haven't been exceptional for long stretches of time, but you're just kind of in there already. You kind of get grandfathered in. So I can't imagine they're going to kick anybody out, which does lead me to believe that they would be willing to take maybe a lesser football school that's really good traditionally at basketball as you continue to expand. I think that'll be a lot easier to swallow. Whereas now they're like, well, we need you to have a good football school. So I think that actually kind of takes a shot at the Big 12 because there are teams that these super leagues, if you're just in the art of expansion, you want to get as big as possible because that theoretically means you'll get as much money as possible. So I don't think a third team will be able to survive unless it's like just a bunch of group of five teams.
Like 1996 when the Outsiders said they had a third man and we spent weeks trying to figure out who it was before the ultimate heel turn of Hulk Hogan. I think there's at least a third man that makes this happen for the ACC Denton Day, and I think it's North Carolina. Like, I like the hiring of Bill Belichick, not because I think he's going to succeed. I think he's going to be an abject failure. We can talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But because the brand awareness for UNC is the highest it's been since, I don't know, Michael Jordan was there back in the day and in his prime. But you mentioned basketball, that the SEC, maybe the Big Ten, decent basketball conference, not as good as the SEC this year, and the Big 12, they may look to go, okay, we're not going to keep up with football, like the Big 12 ACC specifically. We're not going to keep up. If we want to make up that ground, maybe we have to promote ourselves as the premier basketball conference. North Carolina and Duke suddenly enter the conversation. I don't think they wanted to get involved with the lawsuits, Denton Day. Like, let Florida State and Clemson go take the lump. So if they lose these litigations, they end up having to bear all the cost of them down the line. But if they find their way through the wilderness and find a way out, then we just follow the path that they cleared to get there. If another conference, probably the Big 12, starts looking at how do we make ourselves a premier basketball institution, maybe we don't make as much, but we're in that conversation. Duke and North Carolina, and then you could add NC State, Wake Forest, the other North Carolina schools that may be packaged in with them. All of a sudden, they make themselves more attractive, and that's real bad for the ACC too, in my opinion.
It definitely is. Really what I think is going to happen, Rob, is once Clemson and Florida State leave, and at this point that feels inevitable, it's more a question of when, not if. UNC to me fits really well in the Big Ten. I know geographically, I still think in the geographic, even though I shouldn't, just based on the way that conferences are, but they geographically fit way better in the SEC. But if you want to take the basketball element of this, but if you're looking for a rival, you already have built-in ones in the Big Ten, specifically with Maryland. Maryland and UNC, I'm in the area, so I have a little bit of a knowledge of this rivalry, but for years, that was a massive rivalry in the ACC. So if Clemson and Florida State want to make their way to the SEC, it would not stun me at all if UNC is like, oh, we can get out of here. We're going to get out of here. We have enough brand awareness to justify joining the Big Ten. Academically, we are good enough to justify joining the Big Ten, and we have some teams in here that we are already familiar with enough to justify joining. We have a built-in rivalry, something that Maryland does not have right now in the Big Ten. They've been there for like 10 years. They don't have a legit rival. Now you have a rival in that conference. Maryland's happy. UNC's happy. The Big Ten gets UNC basketball, which sooner rather than later, the pendulum will swing the other way. I know they suck this year, but eventually they will be back to being good again. I think they fit really, really well in the Big Ten when we inevitably blow the ACC up.
I don't disagree with that. Here's my question, because you mentioned three things there. Rivalries, geography, and academics. I think the academics matter more in the conference's eyes than maybe any of us out here in Fan Nation believe that they do, specifically for the Big Ten. I don't think geography matters anymore. I'd like to point out that California's in the Atlantic Coast Conference. That doesn't matter as a factor anymore, in my opinion.
It doesn't. You're right. Just in my head, I still think of it that way, because what I think you're going to see happen is Florida State wants to go to the SEC, Clemson wants to go to the SEC, and I think Miami will want to go to the SEC. So while everybody's busy looking that direction, UNC is going to Irish exit and end up in the Big Ten, maybe take UVA with them.
As a big fan of the Irish goodbye, cool. I get it. Let's look at this from the other angle, though, Denton Day. And I don't think that records matter. Right, I've had a couple of people that have texted the show so far and been like, Rob Brown, Florida State was 2-10 last year. Why would the SEC want them? It's not about record. It's about brand power. It's about money brought to the table by the brand. But it's also about footprint. That is, I don't think geography matters as far as where teams have to travel and whatnot. Again, Cal's coming to North Carolina to play games every year.
Right.
But footprint matters. Tallahassee is wedged in between Gainesville and Opelika, Alabama, and Tuscaloosa and Athens, Georgia. Miami, obviously, a little bit better off in that they control the southern half of the Florida Peninsula, but they're only 7 hours from Gainesville, 9 from Tallahassee. I look at Clemson. South Carolina's 45 minutes away. Athens is 2 hours the other direction. And Knoxville, Tennessee ain't that far off either. Does the SEC bestow an invitation upon those two schools? Because while they do have a brand, they don't really grow the footprint any. Which of those two things is more important, do you think?
I feel like the brand is going to be more important. I do love it because I'm sure your Twitter mentions are filled with this all the time about what about the record? Who cares about the record? That has never been a point of contention or notice with this. It's all about brand. And honestly, that's where I feel like Florida State might take a little bit of a hit because at the very least, Clemson has a very good brand in the state of South Carolina, whereas it's always felt like Florida State has been school number 3 in the state of Florida, with Florida and Miami occupying 1 and 2. You can kind of maneuver those however you will, but it's always felt like Florida State is number 3. And it is not lost on me that when they started this uproar, the SEC and Sankey kind of told them politely to F off. They're like, hey, you're being really annoying right now, and you're giving us a bunch of problems that we don't really want. So if you're going to come in here bringing these problems, we have the leverage here because we already have this state fully covered up. I do think that they're going to look, though, as you mentioned, in maybe some more northern schools to justify and to grow the reach, because you're right. Footprint is a big thing, but now it's much more of a national footprint.
Is there, and if so, what is the cap for size of these conferences? Obviously, specifically the Big Ten and the SEC, but I do think whether it flies under the ACC banner or the Big 12 banner, I think the other conference is probably going to maybe end up with more schools just so they have more of that brand power within it, even if they're smaller brands stacked on top of each other. Do you think there is a cap to size of any of these conferences?
I would say probably 30. And I know that's an asinine number, but if you're just thinking about it from like the structuring of a conference, if you have 30, you can do 3 divisions of 10, you can do 5 divisions of 6 or something along those lines. I feel like you'd be much more comfortable with an even number of teams in each division or subsect of your conference, whatever. I feel like that'd be a lot easier, so you can kind of round robin it, if you will. I think anything more than 30 though would feel a little silly. Even saying 30 out loud, like, can you imagine 30 teams in a conference? That sounds ludicrous, but I feel like that would be the absolute cap. If you're going over 30, I mean, at that point, I feel like you'd almost be losing money.
I don't disagree. What I will say, Denton Day, I am now officially convinced, justified or not, you tell me, college football is just going to have an NFL format. It's going to be an NFL structure when this is all said and done.
It's just going to be larger because there's so many more teams in college than the NFL. Like, that's why I bring up 30, because it feels like the Big Ten already has like 20. I mean, they're knocking on the door of it if they're not there yet. So adding like 6 or 7 more of those, at that point, you're like, all right, if we're going to add let's just say you add 3 or 4 teams out of the ACC, you might as well go look at the Big 12. Like, all right, who fits what we're trying to do? Someone's going to call up Notre Dame and say, look, we just need you in this pile of fun as well. We'll let you keep your TV deal, but we're going to need you in here to justify some of the moves that we're making. So I feel like, because my number has always been like a Super League of 60. If you can get 60 in the Super League, I feel like that's a really good size.
That's kind of what I think the ultimate destination is. I just think you're going to have 2 30-team Super League, but the Big Ten and the SEC hold hands with each other and are effectively one conference playing under 2 separate banners. We'll see if we get there. Who's left to make a move? I agree with you on Notre Dame, and I do think that, and I've said this a couple of times, I do think there is a point where somebody says, Big Ten, SEC, hell, maybe the ACC down the line says, you can keep every feature of being an independent. You can keep your NBC contract. You can keep all the bowl money, whatever. We just want to include you in our number for our media stuff over here. You got Florida State and Clemson out of the ACC. You got a couple of schools left in the Big 12. How many more schools do you think are considered crown jewels that could be picked up by those 2 big conferences and shake up the map?
So I would say right now there are 4 like definitive crown jewels. That's Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and UNC. I do think there are what I would consider like tier-wise to be good gets. Like, I think UVA and Duke could be considered a good get, or maybe NC State, whoever, one of those other North Carolina schools and potentially Virginia. I think one of the Arizona schools out of the Big 12 would be considered a good get. Kansas is a good get, especially if they continue to move in the direction of being, not terrible at football as they've been the last couple of years. And then maybe you can throw Colorado and Utah in there is like a good quality get to where you're not adding somebody and then losing a bunch of money because you added this particular school. But outside of that, I mean, I don't really know what the money is like over there at BYU. I would imagine if it's at least anywhat similar to Liberty, where I went to school, that they have a lot of donors that we don't know about. So that might be beneficial as well from a television standpoint. But I feel like there's only 4 crown jewels and then a bunch of like, good gets, not slim pickings. That feels disrespectful, but a little, maybe medium pickings. How about that?
We're all about team mid over here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Off State. All right, Denton Day, one more before we let you go. What's your draft hot take? Everybody's got one draft hot take. What's your draft hot take?
I think Tetero McMillan drops past 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I think as we get closer to it, I don't know that we'll see a fire sale at wide receiver that we have in years past. I think teams are going to go elsewhere, and I think he ends up kind of slipping through the cracks.
He has ended up at number 9 to my New Orleans Saints on a bazillion mocks so far. So that's a bit of a shock to me. How do you buy into this Shador Sanders is arrogant conversation, or do you think he was just, I don't know, raised by Deion Sanders?
It's a little bit of both. I have heard stories that we have all heard, but I also have limited experience, shall we say, of like helping out at a Pac-12 media day when they were still technically in the Pac-12, and he sat down for an interview and the 90-second commercial break was too long, so he got up and then he left the interview, and then Travis Hunter did extra time because he left the interview. So there's a little bit of smoke to the fire, but it's one of those things where once you see a little bit of the smoke, you get a lot of people that then start really fanning the flames. But there's a little bit of something there. But Deion's kid, like, you know what I mean? I mean, I can't judge Deion's kid. He lived a different life than I did. Way different.
90 seconds is a long time, especially if it's like a bunch of 15s chained together. It makes it seem a lot longer.
I think he sat down with like 60 seconds in the 90 seconds, and he was like, this is too long. And then he got up and left.
In fairness, I very rarely sit down for 90 seconds to do anything. I get it. The ADHD is no joke. 10 days, all I'm saying.
I don't doubt that, but I think people were trying to talk to him, and he wanted no part of it.
Fair enough. Denton Day hosts College Football Overtime on Sirius XM. He is also a utility man host on where I think might be the greatest group of radio personality talent of all time, the BetMGM network. If I may say so myself, I'm slightly biased. He has been kind enough to join us on Wednesdays, and hopefully will continue to do so because he's a legendary broadcaster. Appreciate you, big dog.
Hey, appreciate it, fellas. Fun as always.
My pleasure. Denton Day. Follow him on X at the Denton Day because the guy's just live all the time. He's the best. We're coming back right after this. We'll talk about that Shador Sanders report and more next up on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Three friends. All right, guys, quick live, and we're back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. The NFL Combine is very interesting in that, obviously, we are evaluating the athletic potential of potential draft picks. The resume to me is what's on tape from their college performances. The Combine is to see what the ceiling of their athletic prowess is. Obviously, if a wide receiver can set a vert record, then we know the kid's got hops, and now we can work that into whatever offense we're going to draft him into. If we find out that maybe an offensive lineman doesn't have off-the-ball acceleration like we'd like, and we're a team that utilizes, like, I don't know, the Baltimore Ravens, a lot of pulling guards, maybe that's a guy that we looked at and we go, he's big, he's strong, he's athletic, but we pull our guards a lot, and he doesn't have that real quick first step. He's not really the fit here anymore. The point is not to see how good they are at football. It's to see how good they are at the individual skills that become the composite of who they are as a football player and to decide if they fit into your offense or your defense. Oh, I had a real good segment going here.
All right, this is self-serving a little bit to a degree, but because it's the sources, but it's Ian Rappaport.
Is going to fight Jordan Schultz.
The Bears are expected to trade for Chiefs All-Pro guard Joe Thuney.
Oh.
As Chicago continues to load it. I mean, what are we doing, people?
Oh.
What are we doing?
I'll tell you what you're doing.
Okay, All-Pro guard moved out to tackle because he didn't have a tackle and performed really well there. What are we doing?
I'll tell you. You are doing your darndest.
Wow.
To stop a rebuild in the future. You are trying to roll a little bit at a time and just be young at a bunch of spots instead of getting old at all the spots and then 1 year, whether it's Mahomes walks away or Reed walks away or whatever, going, we got to rebuild a whole football team and having to dive down into Saints territory. You're going to try to do that a position at a time. What do we know what the compensation is?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, it's again, it's a source to say it's happening.
Sure.
Casey gets a bit younger, plus frees up some money
Bingo.
to use elsewhere.
Exactly what I said. It is a matter of, although he is without a doubt the anchor on your offensive line, he is also how old is Thuney now? I know he ain't young. He ain't young.
No, but when he was in there,
he's 32.
The interior with him and Creed and
But I'll tell you what's going to happen now. You guys are drafting linemen.
Which we should do anyway.
I agree. I said after the Super Bowl, there will be a philosophy shift in the National Football League. I think, I could be wrong, but I think you are going to see in the first round of the National Football League draft here in just about 50 some days from now. I think 54, 55, whatever it is. On the opening night of the National Football League draft in round number 1, I think you may very well see a record number of offensive linemen taken in the first round. I think this might be as basic football fans go, and literally, the least sexy first round of all time. Because I think it's going to be an absolute run on offensive linemen. Because I think, as the Philadelphia Eagles have now won 2 Super Bowls in 7 years, they've been to 3. I think they have reset the game. A lot of guys in years gone by looked and they said, we're going to draft outside. We're going to draft receivers. We're going to draft defensive backs. We're going to draft quarterbacks and running backs. I think the philosophy has been inverted due to Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you are going to start seeing teams draft from the inside out. You start drafting on the offensive and defensive lines, and then you draft skill position guys, linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, etc. When you get to a spot that you go, this is a first-round talent, and we're sitting at pick number 31, and now this guy's available. Now we believe that this wide receiver has dropped beyond where we would think he's going to be graded out to a spot that the value of picking him here is greater than an offensive lineman that in days gone by maybe was a mid-second rounder, but because we're going on runs, is now the next best offensive lineman. We can't justify a 31st overall pick at that spot, But this wide receiver, who we thought was going to be or would have been off the table most years at 16, has fallen to us here because of how many offensive linemen have been drafted. I think you are going to see on night one of the NFL draft genuinely more offensive linemen taken in the first round than maybe ever before in the modern era.
Okay, I don't think this has anything to do with Philadelphia. I get what you're saying. It really, I think this has to do with Patrick Mahomes nearly getting killed.
Oh, no.
In the Super Bowl.
Let me be clear. I was talking about the draft itself.
Okay.
What I'm saying about Kansas City is I think you guys, and not just Kansas City, I think a lot of teams are gonna try their hand at this philosophy this year. What I'm saying for Kansas City is you're drafting at 31. This is a really good class of offensive linemen, like a really good class of offensive linemen. So I think the strategy, if I'm Kansas City here, is Joe Thuney's got one of the biggest contracts of an offensive lineman in the league. That's off the books. You are going to pick up a couple of draft picks in return for this, I suspect. So you get a bunch of cap money, and you get probably at least 2 or 3 draft picks out of this deal, unless you get like one high draft pick, get a second rounder for him or something. And because it is a deep offensive line class, Kansas City has the option, which is package whatever pick they get for Thuney and move way up in the first round. Or you stick at 31, you get an offensive lineman because it's a good class, and there's going to be guys who in other years would have graded out to be a top 15, 16, 17 pick that will fall to 31 because there's just that many of those guys now. You draft his replacement.
A future 4th round pick is involved.
So you trade 31 in a
future.
It's
about money.
It is about money.
Yeah, it's about
It is about money.
Okay.
But again, if it is about money, that is still an indicator to me that you are preparing for the future and trying to avoid a complete and total rebuild when one of the bulwarks steps away, right? Whether it's Reed or Mahomes, whenever one of those guys decides, I've had enough, I'm done. And because, again, there are guys on that roster that are there to play for Andy Reid or with Patrick Mahomes. Much like when Brady left Tampa, not everybody, but you had a handful of guys who said, I was here to play with Brady, I'm out. I was here to play for Bruce Arians, I'm out. I'm not playing for Todd Bowles. When either Mahomes or Reid goes, or both of them go, nightmare scenario, they both leave after they win a Super Bowl and decide we've had enough, we're both out. You guys,
Listen,
I think...
You're going to have to stop all the profanity, okay?
I have yet to begin to profane. You guys are setting yourself up so that when those guys go, and that's not to say it's going to be like, oh, they win the Super Bowl next year and they're out. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years down the road. But when it happens, you guys want to have your youth core in place. You want to probably replace, it's maintenance. You want to replace an old part or 2 old parts every couple of years, so that down the line, the whole thing doesn't break down and you got to replace everything, right? It's like your car. You go get the oil done, and then you go get your belts changed, and then you go get your tires rotated or your tires changed and new ones put on, and then you replace your coolant and you replace the this and the that. That's all the car things I know that you have to fix. But you do those things with the car things so that you don't drive around a car that, it's working fine for a handful of years. It's getting you where you need to go and back. And then one day you walk out and it doesn't start because everything's busted. And now I gotta fix everything. Now I got one big ass bill instead of a couple of little bills here and there. I think this is a matter of you guys putting a few $1 million back onto the cap that you can now spend on rookies and get young guys on rookie contracts. It opens up another draft pick. Again, if it's just a 4th rounder, that's actually a little bit surprising. But a 4th rounder that you can package with one, you can go get some guys on young deals. This is Kansas. This is smart. This is Kansas City saying, when Reid and Mahomes leave, we don't want to have an old-ass team that we got to replace everything. We're going to have a bunch of young pieces. Because Joe Thuney's not going to be there when Mahomes and Reid leave. So why not go ahead and make that transition and get the next guy in there? I actually like this move for Kansas City as much as he was the stalwart of your O-line. Let's talk about that Shedeur Sanders thing when we come back. The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, one more live and we're back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. The NFL Draft Combine, one of the 4 premier events on the NFL calendar. NFL Opening Day, the NFL Super Bowl, the NFL Draft Combine, the NFL Draft. I will accept Madden release date as an honorary 5th date on that schedule. I love the Combine. I love the Combine as a nerd because, again, I get to evaluate the physical capabilities of potential draft picks. Their resume is what they did in college and who they did it against. What the Combine does is allow me, and I guess NFL GMs or whatever, to evaluate what a player is physically capable of. I was going off the illustration in the last segment. I'll do it again here. Let's say it's time to work out guards. And so I line up a guard, and what I have them do is a pull drill. I'm going to run a drill where I'm going to have you line up in Pass Pro. I'm going to have you go into a Pass Pro drop back, get the hands up, show me your pass blocking technique. Then I'm going to have a coach in front of you point left or right. And whatever way he points, I want you to sprint that direction around a cone. What am I gauging there? I'm gauging pull speed. How fast can you go from a set position to lateral acceleration left or right? Why am I evaluating that? Well, if I'm a team that likes to shift the pocket in Pass Pro, I want to see how quickly you can change your coverage angle left or right. If I'm the Baltimore Ravens, a team that has a lot of pulling guards involved in their run game, I want to see how quickly can you accelerate on a pull. Can I trust you as the left guard to, as soon as the ball hits Lamar's hands, already have your hand off the buttocks of the center, pulling out front of Lamar or Derrick Henry or whoever? I need to see what you are capable of doing mechanically so that I can evaluate if those mechanics are a good fit inside of what my offense is. That's the Combine for the nerds. The Combine for, average everyday fans is you get a chance to see eyes on a bunch of guys that maybe you didn't watch play a lot of college football that could be the newest member of your team. It's a day for renewal, optimism, rejuvenation. That's what the Combine's for. But there's another aspect of the Combine, and that aspect is getting the opportunity to hear stories about how these guys interact. I played a clip for you earlier in the show. I'm going to play it again here. John Gruden now works for Barstool Sports. He had the opportunity to sit down with longtime Minnesota Vikings defensive back and very good football player Fred Smoot. And Smoot said, Chucky, I've been looking for you for a minute.
I've been looking for Coach for a long time. See, here go the funny thing about it. When I came out in 01 as one of the top defensive backs, I was looking at his team, and he had Warren Sapp and Brooks and all the rest of those guys, but he took one of my best friends, Dwight Smith, instead. Right? I could have had a ring as a Tampa Bay Buck, but Coach stole it from me.
Why didn't you take Smoot? Smoot comes into the meeting, and he says, the world is made up of 70% water and 30% land. I cover the 30%. Tell him how you said it. How'd you say it?
The world is covered by 70% water. I cover the rest. Right? So I'm letting him know.
I said, get him out of here. I don't want to hear this.
Combine? That was the Combine?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Why don't you draft
He don't even say, how you doing, Coach? He starts giving me this line about the world. I said, get his ass out.
So now that clip is obviously a lot of fun. That clip's a lot of fun. That clip's fun because it's Fred Smoot telling a story. Obviously, he never got a ring, but his career worked out pretty well for him. John Gruden telling that story, having a chuckle. He did get a ring out of that 2001 team. The defensive backs on that team were Donnie Abraham, Rondé Barber, David Gibson, John Howell, Brian Kelly, and Dexter Jackson. It's not a bad list of DBs. Fred Smoot in 2001 would have started on that roster. That team would have been better. Fred Smoot would have won a Super Bowl and potentially stuck around on that team for a long time. That team could have ended up being, and I mean they were, but could have been an even better defensive dynasty. But John Gruden passed on Fred Smoot. And according to the story, if you believe them to be telling this story, though comically accurately, it's because Fred Smoot walked into his interview with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and said to head coach John Gruden, The world is covered 30% by water. I cover the rest, or 70% by water. I cover the rest. Whatever the joke goes. It's a joke we've heard about DBs for a very long time. And Chucky said, "Yeah, no, we're good, and went completely somewhere else with his draft pick. Enter Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, according to reports out of the NFL Draft Combine. And do remember, before we start this or any other draft conversation, it is what season? Hashtag smokescreen a season. Teams are liars. They're all lying right now because they want to lie about guys that they want to pick, and they want to lie about guys they don't want to pick, so that the guys that they do want to pick get passed up on other teams, and so the guys that they don't want to pick get selected earlier by other teams and leave their guys on the board. Everybody's a liar. But this is one of those ones that we have now heard from a number of places, and I believe, after our conversation with Denton Day from SiriusXM earlier in the show, that there's a little smoke to the fire here. The report is that Shedeur Sanders, one of the two quarterbacks considered top 10 picks, is arrogant, is cocky, is over the top. And that some teams, including the New York Giants, are now turned off to the idea of drafting Shedeur Sanders because of his arrogance. Now, I will not argue that arrogance can be, most of the time is, a negative trait for someone. I would entirely agree with that. I don't know that it's always bad for a pro athlete. I want you to genuinely think right now about the list of great athletes. I'm not talking about really good. I'm talking about great athletes. How many of them would you say were arrogant? I would say most of them. It almost, to me, kind of feels like you kind of got to be a little arrogant to be one of the best. And then on top of that fact, this is Deion's kid. Has anybody ever described Deion Sanders with any word outside of cocky, arrogant? And we all go, we celebrate Deion for it. Again, could you imagine back in the mid-90s when Deion got drafted to the NFL, if they would have looked at him and said, this kid's too arrogant, this kid's too cocky? Somebody would have drafted Deion late. He'd have gone on to have one of the greatest elite careers as a defensive back / kick returner in the National Football League, and we'd have all been sitting here talking about how in the world did every NFL team pass on Deion Sanders. Of course he was cocky. Shock of shocks, Deion's kid's a little cocky. He's also one of the toughest SOBs in this draft. Deion Sanders' kid, Shedeur, played behind a garbage Colorado offensive line and was one of the most, if not the most, sacked quarterbacks in Division I football this year. You know how many games Shedeur Sanders missed with injuries? Not many. Over his career, not very many. He was durable. He constantly performed. Listen, I've been saying for a while, Shedeur Sanders ain't a top 10 pick for me. He's good. He's not a top 10 pick. And now I'm defending this guy from claims of arrogance because he walked into a room and he said, there was one quote was attributed to him. He said, if you ain't trying to redefine your franchise, don't draft me. And a lot of people were like, oh, God, that's arrogant. Is it, though? Is it, though? I want you to think about all the great quarterbacks in the NFL. Tell me which of them did not redefine their franchise. Drew Brees redefined the New Orleans Saints. Lonzo, would you say Patrick Mahomes redefined the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think you probably have to say that, Rob.
Yeah, I think you would. I'd have to say Tom Brady redefined the New England Patriots. Joe Burrow redefined the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Allen redefined the Buffalo Bills. Lamar Jackson redefined the Baltimore Ravens. Great quarterbacks redefine the franchise. Do you want a quarterback who doesn't believe he's going to be great? Of course I do not. I got a lot of reasons to say Shedeur Sanders isn't a top 10 draft pick, maybe top 15 draft pick. A lot of reasons, a lot of football reasons, a lot of taped college football reasons. He's arrogant and cocky, ain't one. He's Deion's kid, and quarterbacks are supposed to be cocky. It kind of comes with the territory. It's like the oldest teen movie trope of all time. If you don't want to draft Shedeur, fine. But cocky and arrogant ain't a good reason for it.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, speaking of cocky and arrogant, the first thing Zach's seen is Becky Lynch.
I see what you did there. Becky Lynch is trending. I actually did see this because apparently she sent a message, Seth Rollins' wife, to AJ Lee, who is CM Punk's wife, because Punk said in his promo on Monday, which was electric, by the way, Becky Lynch, come get your man. It was phenomenally performed. Okay? He said, come get your man before I put him in a wheelchair. Well, Becky Lynch, kayfabe, I believe, sent a message to AJ Lee and effectively kind of called her out and said, hey, come get your man before mine puts him in a wheelchair. Here's what I think we're getting, great one. I think we're getting Punk and AJ versus Seth and Becky in a WrestleMania match. You bring the girls back. You allow them to play off of each other. I don't need 30 minutes out of either. You let Punk and Rollins carry it. You get two of the most notorious and well-liked female superstars of all time on the WrestleMania card. And I want you to know, I'm all in to bring AJ Lee and Becky back.
All right. Unless I saw something wrong, she said, come and get your man. And she showed a picture of CM Punk and a picture of Cora Jade. And
yeah. Okay,
and some people are really upset because Becky noticed something that I've been noticing for a while, is that CM Punk sure is awful friendly and hanging around with all the young girls. Just saying, it looks a little creepy. It looks like maybe something's going on, and she's just pointing out what everyone else is pointing out, and so people are coming at her for doing that.
In kayfabe, that's a great line. That's a great play in kayfabe. In real life, Punk is actually spending a ton of time at the performance facility acting as a coach.
Yeah, but you don't see him hanging around with the dudes.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Follow his social media.
I do.
He's doing TikToks with Tricky Trick Williams.
Yep, it's mostly the girls that
I'm not saying it's not, because, and this may shock you, the girls do the majority of the social media-ing down there at the Performance Center and on the main roster.
Nuh-uh.
I know. It's very weird.
All right, the next thing texting is Matt Murdock.
Daredevil season, what are we on, 2, 3, whatever it is, the new season of Daredevil Reborn, drops today. No, dropped last night at 9 o'clock.
Yes, it dropped last night at 9 o'clock, which means I didn't watch it, because you can't watch something like that and then expect to go to bed.
Yeah.
So
I decided
I'll be watching it today.
That I was going to watch a bunch of college and NBA basketball and save it today. I will say this. The commercial came on during one of the games. I was sitting on the couch with the wife. The commercial came on during one of the games, and she looked at me and she goes, so we start that tomorrow? She loves Daredevil.
Can she handle the violence? Because supposedly they up it, even though it's on Disney.
She is all in. In fact, the what I think is, and I mean this, the best moment of cinematography that Marvel has done in the entire MCU was the hallway fight scene from Daredevil season 1.
And that was
I think that was
one.
the greatest thing they put on film in the MCU. That was over, and I distinctly remember, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. That was over, longer than that. I distinctly remember, because she watched Daredevil season 1 with me. I distinctly remember that scene ending. She stopped it, and she goes, rewind it. I want to watch that again. She loves Daredevil. Daredevil, I think, great one. Daredevil, I think, is the open door that Marvel has left to get these scragglers and hangers on to stay in the MCU. You added him into the Spider-Man movie. Now you give him a TV show. It is the most gritty, real of all the superhero projects. I think he is your open door to the non-super fantastic superhero realm of the MCU.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
Also, bring back Luke Cage
this afternoon. That's in the works, supposedly.
Yeah. I liked Luke Cage.
Yeah, so did I. I did. I thought.
I like Jessica Jones too.
I thought Danny Rand got a bad rap, but I think people just latched on it. Oh yeah, I think he sucks too.
Yeah,
anyway.
but Iron Fist was of all of the street level heroes. Iron Fist was obviously far and away the farthest divorced from his classic comic book lore. And I think that turned off the nerds. And if the nerds are turned off, they bring all the normies with them.
All right. And the last thing that's Xing, Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley is now the highest paid running back in NFL history. He signed a 2-year deal for $42 million, 36 of it guaranteed. He is the only NFL in history to be paid more than $20 million per year. He also has escalators and incentives that could boost him to another $15 million a year. Look, I didn't make a segment out of Saquon Barkley today, not because I didn't want to, but because what the hell else do you say? He's real good at football, and he earned it this year.
I guess you say congratulations.
Hell yeah. Saquon, my Venmo is open, big dog. The show, however, is closed. We're done. We're going home. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Come back tomorrow. We're going to do it all over again, but better. We got Lulu Kesson. We got Rashad Beer. We got Hayton Ass Mario. We got Fight Club and more. That's all tomorrow on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later.
It's Riz, baby. We got Riz.
Tiger's We Got Riz clip lives next door to Slay, and it serves Major Flex. Right there in that top tier.
Has anyone checked on R-Truth to make sure he's okay?
No, he's not okay.
I haven't seen anything in the last little bit. I'm
He's
a little,
not okay.
little worried
Not
about
only is he
him.
not okay, I think it's going to get worse. We'll see. Dudes and dudettes, you're all amazing people. I appreciate all of you. Do us a favor. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow the show. Share it around to your social media if you've enjoyed it. Because Lonzo and I want to get rich and famous and stuff. Preferably rich. Famous is optional. But I do think they go hand in hand. So, thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.